So we are back in Deuteronomy chapter 5. We've been looking at these laws. The last time we looked at thou shalt not steal. Don't steal. You shall not steal. We looked at that. Like as I said before, I wish all of you well, all my brothers and my sisters who are trying to keep the law. I wish you well. So like as I said earlier we went through Deuteronomy chapter 5 where it says thou shalt not kill. We did that at maybe last Sabbath. We went through that. But like as I said about being conscious all the time, let me give you an example. There's something that happened to me a few days ago. I went to a gas station, a filling station, and I used their windshield cleaner. They have like a windshield, something that you use to clean your glass. So I took their paper towel, and I took their windshield cleaner and I cleaned my windows. I took their paper towel just to clean my car. And then I began to feel guilty. I felt like I was stealing. That's just how I felt, like I was stealing. But they left this thing in public. They left it in public for their customers to use. But at that time, I wasn't their customer. That was probably around 4 in the morning. I don't think there was really nobody in that gas station outside. There was somebody inside, walking inside, but so I wasn't buying anything, but I simply used their paper towel and their windshield cleaner to clean my window. But I felt guilty. And the thought that came to my mind, which I know I'm going to do, the thought that came to my mind is that eventually I'm going to have to go back there and buy something. This is, most people will say, man, this man is crazy. I understand. I understand how petty it sounds. You know, what I'm saying right now sounds crazy. It sounds petty, but that's just the guilt. That's just the, why was I feeling this way? Because of the law that says don't steal. For some reason, I used to use their stuff and clean my car before. But for some reason this time in my mind, I thought about it and I calculated the whole thing. I'm not buying anything from them right now, but I'm using their paper towel and their the thing to use to just clean the windshield and clean the glass. So I felt guilty and I thought to myself, some other time I'm going to come back and I'll just buy something. That's what I thought. And so, but this is we have to be conscious, like we have to be awake. We have to be awake. We can't just lie anyhow. We can't lie at all. We can't just do anything like anyhow. Then we're no longer being set apart. This is what sets us apart. And I didn't think to myself, oh, let me think this way so that will set me apart. That was just a natural thought that came to my mind as I was about to leave that filling station or that gas station. That thought came to my mind, telling me that this thing could be stealing. To which I responded to myself, okay, basically I responded that I will come back some other time and just buy something, which I will do. But this kind of thinking, like as I said, for most people out in the world, they will simply say that you're crazy for doing this, for thinking like this. That's not a big deal. So, but being able to be careful when it comes to these laws. Don't lie, don't steal. Being able to be, and stick to the law. Being able to do that, that is what it means to be set apart, because everyone else is not doing it. Most people are just stealing stuff, doing whatever they want. They're not even thinking twice about it. So the fact that you're thinking twice about it, and you're monitoring how you go, and you're monitoring what you do, the fact that you're doing that, that's what sets you apart. That's one of the things that sets you apart. So that was what we saw last Sabbath about neither shall you steal. The next one is Deuteronomy chapter 5 verse 20. Deuteronomy chapter 5 verse 20. Neither shall you bear false witness against your neighbor. Neither shall you bear false witness against your neighbor. Neither shall you bear false witness against your neighbor. So, what is this law talking about? You know that the Gentiles have tried to educate us to believe that your neighbor is anyone who reads the Bible or who claims to be a Christian, that's your neighbor. That's what the Gentiles wants us to believe. So that in that way, they are the ones that benefit. They are the one that benefits when we believe such a nonsense. A Gentile is not your neighbor. Your neighbor is your fellow Israelite. That is your neighbor. Example, 2 Samuel chapter 12. 2 Samuel chapter 12. Yah said to David, I will take your wives and give them to your neighbor. So, let me put it this way. Oh my goodness, if you grew up in a Western country, that's why I said that those that grew up in Western countries, like America, like Europe, if you grew up in a Western country, I really encourage you to try to learn the Hebrew culture as much as you can. Hebrew culture. And the Hebrew cultures are documented in the scriptures. The Hebrew cultures are preserved in the scriptures. We can see how they dressed. We can see how they got married. We can see how they did wedding. We can see how they did these things. So all the Hebrew cultures are preserved for us. So if you live, say, in America or in Europe, you're not going to be able to understand when the Bible says something about your neighbor. You will misunderstand it. So that place that says love your neighbor, you're not going to understand it based on the way that you're not going to understand it right. What do I mean by that? If you live in America or Europe, your neighbor is 100% a stranger to you. the person that lives next door to you, you don't have any relation with them. You have no idea who they are. I mean, you see them and you say hi, hello, and you wave, but they're a stranger. So when you are among the Gentiles, you have some limitations, because if you had grown up, say, in Africa, there are certain things you will see in the scriptures. You will know, oh, okay, I understand that. And I gave an example with the man that went to gather stick on a Sabbath day in Numbers chapter 15. The man that went to gather stick, right? The Bible calls it stick. Some translation calls it stick. So if you are someone that grew up in Western country, you will be thinking, this is not cool. How can they kill this man because he gathered stick on a Sabbath day? So you'll be thinking, how can they do this? How can they kill him? How can the Most High even tell them to kill him just because he gathered stick? So stick, it says stick, but if you grew up in a place where you never cooked outside, you never gathered firewood, you never did any of that, you wouldn't really understand what that man had done. You will not be able to understand it. You will have hard time understanding what was going on there. But for those that grew up if you grew up like in Africa, you will have a better understanding of what that place is saying. What that man was doing that day, what he was doing is that he was gathering firewood, because back then we cooked with firewood, not like now that we cook with stove and gas. Back in the day, they were cooking with firewood. So that was what he was doing. He was gathering firewood on a Sabbath day. And firewood is something that you need to cook. So this man was actually planning on cooking on Sabbath day. Because I grew up in a small village, and if you do grow up in a small village, you know that we have to go out and gather the firewood and use it to cook. You don't go and gather firewood if you don't plan on cooking that day, or you simply wait until the next day, you go gather it. So that man was clearly trying to cook on that day. That was why he was killed. But he wasn't gathering sticks. He was gathering firewood. The same firewood that you put in your in your fireplace. The same firewood that you put in the fireplace to create heat, that's what we used to cook, to boil our food and cook our food. So, but a Westerner, a Gentile, will not understand what that is saying. They will just say, wow, this Bible is full of violence. Man, this man was gathering sticks and they kill him. Wow, that's not good. No, he wasn't killed because he was gathering sticks. He was gathering firewood. This is found in Numbers chapter 15. He was gathering firewood, and that means that he had an intention of cooking on that day. Why will he do this? Knowing fully well what the Most High had said. He knew what the Most High had said, and yet he still decided to go gather that firewood, which is needed for cooking. So that was what happened there. So that's just one example and I'm using this example, and it's important for you to acknowledge this and acknowledge, okay, the culture I was born into and the culture that I grew up in is not the same culture that I read in the Bible. It's important to at least acknowledge this, so that in that way you'll be able to now seek out the culture that you read about in the Bible. So the Gentiles now uses this against us. If they haven't used it against you, they may use it against you by giving you the impression that your neighbor is like your neighbor today. No. If the person who live next to you, if they are not related to you biblically, they are not your neighbor. And don't allow yourself to be intimidated. Don't allow yourself to be used and intimidated to be abused or be, for whatever reason, because, or be shamed into doing something because you're supposed to love your neighbor. You have to see these things the way the Most High sees it and accept it the way He accepts it. So your neighbor is, and we need to understand that, because before we can understand when it says, do not, you shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. It's very important to understand this. So if your neighbor is a Mexican, if your neighbor is Chinese, if your neighbor is Korean, Russian, and European, these are not your neighbors biblically. Biblically, they are not. And biblically is what counts. Again, don't let someone our people are really. Have you noticed something on television? If you haven't noticed this, I'm just going to throw it out on you and keep it and watch. Whenever they kill a Hebrew Israelite, have you noticed how our people are expected to forgive? Have you noticed on TV, you see our people, mostly the mother, saying that she I forgave them. Just admit what you did, I'll forgive you. Now, I want you to notice whenever they kill a child that belongs to other nation, they want full justice. Nobody's talking about forgiveness. When is the last time you saw on television that a foreign child was killed, like maybe a Gentile? Maybe, let me say, a white child was killed. When is the last time or a white person was killed? When is the last time you saw the family talking about, oh, we'll forgive him? Go look. They don't do that. But they expect you to forgive. Does Yah forgive the enemies of David? Didn't Yah say that He would destroy the enemies of David? These are some of the psychological chains that we've been chained psychologically. Majority of our people are walking around today with their suit and their tie. But they are in more slavery than our ancestors. Slavery have not ended. Slavery has not ended yet. It's just been modernized. And our people get taken advantage of. because they're ignorant, they don't know the scriptures, they don't know who they are, they get taken advantage of. The Most High is God of justice. You kill an innocent person, you get killed. It doesn't matter whether you are the son of David. It doesn't matter whether you're the son of Esau. It doesn't matter. You kill an innocent person, you get killed. Now imagine a world where everybody is following that. There is something that the story that I think one of you posted it on Bible Law School. And then later on I see like a news report, I see people making video about that or something. Now watch when they finally catch that person. Watch how the parents and the family member are going to start talking about forgiveness. No. No. That man that killed that girl needs to be killed. He needs to be executed. He needs to be killed. Does that mean that you don't forgive him? No, you have to forgive him. Oh no, we forgive you. We forgive you. But you kill someone, you be killed. Period. So if you don't want to be killed, then don't kill anybody. If you don't want your stuff to be stolen, don't steal from anybody. Treat people the way you would like to be treated. So of course our people are destroyed. Of course we have no idea who we are. Of course we're ignorant of who we are. So we follow other people's religion. And they take advantage of us. They exploit us. They steal from us. And we completely misunderstand the scriptures. Completely. We completely misunderstand it, and people will be taking advantage of you. I don't like that. People taking advantage of you so they can do things to you. No, you can't do things to them. But they can, you can't do things to them. If you do, they will take full revenge. But they can do it to you. No, that's not biblical. That is not biblical. So that's why you see what the Most High is saying that he will do to the enemies of David. Did you know that Yah did that? Abigail. How did her husband die? Who killed her husband? Where is the forgiveness? Abigail's husband was a wicked man. Her husband was a wicked man. But he was rich. Very rich. Filthy rich. But he was wicked. And we don't do divorce. So she was stuck with him. So David was kind to this man. I want you to watch that story. I'm not going to read it. You can go back and read it yourself in 2 Samuel. Or 1 Samuel. David was kind to him. David helped this man. Like our people today. We are so naive. And everybody anywhere will come and take advantage of us. The Chinese, the Mexicans, everybody looks at us like we're stupid. Other nations, they look at us like we're stupid. Everybody minds their own business. Everybody supports their own people, goes to their own people for their business. We are the ones that go to everyone else and leave our own people. And these nations, they see this and they think we're foolish. Everyone else is wise. We hate ourselves and we hate our brothers, we hate our sisters as a nation of people. It doesn't have to be that way. If we would only stick to the scriptures and follow the scriptures and see the way our Heavenly Father did things. Here was David being nice to this man, helping him, protected him. David was nice. He doesn't have to do that. He doesn't have to do anything for him. But he did. And then when David needed help, this man refused to do it. That made Yah angry. And this is the situation that our people are in today. We are so quick to help others. So quick. When we see our own who are suffering, we ignore them. We love others more than we love our own. And I'm speaking as someone who used to think like that. We respect others more than we respect our own. We respect others. Sorry about that. I think there was someone calling, but this is not a good time. I think they have some question about the lunar Sabbath. So we respect others. When I say we, I'm talking about the Hebrews. And this includes those in Africa. This includes those in the America. We're acting the same way. We're literally acting the same way. Of course, those that in America was taken from Africa, from the Igbos. But we behave the same way. We cherish others more than we cherish our own. When we're looking at other people, other nations and other people, these Gentiles, when we look at them, we respect them. We take them seriously. We show them respect. We show them courtesy. But we despise our own. Except if our own is rich, then we take them seriously. If they're not rich, we despise them. We're supposed to despise these nations. Do you understand that these people are nothing in the sight of the Most High? Oh my goodness. Do you understand that they are nothing? This is not just found in 2nd Esdras chapter 6. It's not just found there. It's also found in Isaiah chapter 40:17. Isaiah 40:17. They are nothing. The only reason why you see these nations, the only reason why you're hearing about these nations is because of the Israelites. I understand that this sounds crazy. This sounds like some people may say black supremacy. But I am not the one that says that the Most High chose Israel above all the other nations. I'm not the one that said it. I'm not the one that said that. He chose the Israelite. The scripture is saying that these other nations are nothing, and yet we value them. I know how I used to look at them. Now they are useless to me. They are nothing. I despise them because now I know them. How did I know them? Because now I know myself. You can't know them if you don't know yourself, if you don't know who you are. Now that you know who you are, and understand how valuable you are, understand that you were chosen by the Most High. And that you actually have an opportunity and right and the key to go back home. We were lost and was scattered. The Most High Yah, in His mercy, His love, His kindness, not only did He send out His messengers to go look for us and find us, not only that, but when they found us, He gave us a key to go home, not just but to go home and open the door and go back inside. And this is the key, the law. That was the key that Adam and Eve lost, and they were thrown out. They couldn't go back into Yah. They broke the law. They were kicked out. Yah gave it to us back for free. We just have to use it. How do we use it? Keeping the Sabbath, growing your beard, keeping all the laws and the commandment, wearing your fringes. This is the only thing that can bring us back to our Heavenly Father. Other than that, you can't get back in. Revelation chapter 22 verse 14. That's the only way we can get back in. Revelation 22:14. Blessed are those that keep the commandment, that they may have the right to the tree of life. How in the world are you going to have the right to the tree of life? There's no other way. That Bible verse in Revelation 22:14 should be the most popular Bible verse in the world. That is the only way you're going to have access to the eternal life, by keeping the commandment. That's the password. That's the key. Revelation 22:14. I didn't write it. So once you understand these things and you understand that these people are useless, they're nothing, and the Most High is done with them, and that's why they're wasting away in our face. They are dying away. And yet, we value them. We lift them up. We listen to them. We obey them. We want to be like, oh my God. The worst part is that we want to be like them. That's the most disgusting part. That we want to be like them. People who are nothing. We want to be like people who are nothing in the sight of the Most High. People that are supposed to be like us. That's Numbers chapter 15, 15 and 16. Numbers 15, 15 and 16. They're supposed to be keeping the law so they can be like us. That's Ephesians chapter 4. Ephesians chapter 4, Paul was telling them that they have to start keeping the law so they can be like us. We stop keeping the law and we want to be like them. We're dressing like them. We're eating like them. We are letting them educate our children. Oh my goodness. People that the Most High consider to be nothing. People that the Most High is killing right now. Do you understand that the Most High is destroying them right now in your face? Did you think that Yah destroyed ancient Babylon in one day? There's something called plague. When Yah sends you a plague, that plague does not kill you in one day. Example, Egypt. This catastrophe will begin to happen. It begins to happen and start killing people. And then after that, this will begin to happen over here. After that, that will begin to happen over there. That's what the Most High does. Opioid. Like never before. They have never seen anything like this. Drug overdose. Like never before. They've never seen anything like this. Low birth rate. Like never before. They've never seen anything like this. This strange disease that is killing their women like never before. They've never seen anything like this. Low sperm count like never before. They've never seen anything like this. I'm not making this up. This is what's happening. The Islamic takeover of Europe like never before. They've never seen anything like this. It's over. It's done. Yah is done with them. He raised them up to use them to punish us. Done. And he tosses them out just like he tossed out the Assyrians. Just like he tossed out the Philistines. The Babylonians. Where are they today? Where are all these nations? These nations are not biblical nations. They actually existed. Tomorrow, when you have some time, go to your phone and type in Assyrian Empire, Babylonian Empire. These are physical nations that actually existed. It's not a fairy tale. It's not something that you only read in the Bible. But where are they today? The Most High raised these nations up to use them to punish us. When he's done, he sends them plagues and he wipes them out. Destroys them. There's two problems. Two. One is the good news. The other one is not good news. The good news is that as this happens, that shows us we can actually see a tangible evidence. If the Bible is true, if the Bible is true, that means that according to Daniel chapter 2 and Daniel chapter 7, as this fourth kingdom goes down, according to Daniel chapter 2, there will not be any other kingdom after that except the kingdom that Yeshua will rule over. Do you understand how close we are to that kingdom? If the current kingdom is falling apart in our face, this is something I will expect my grandchildren to see. That's what I'm seeing. This is something that Isaiah, Paul the Apostle, James, this is something that people that lived 2,000 years ago, they will love to live right now. and see what we are seeing. This was the kingdom that was oppressing them back then, the Roman Empire. Nothing has changed. They simply changed the name. Still the same thing. Still the same thing. Go on YouTube. Sit down tomorrow. Type in similarities between America and Roman Empire and watch those videos. And you're going to see videos where people have done their homework. People have sat down and they began to compare similarities between Roman Empire and American Empire. That's why I keep telling you, nothing has changed. Because if something has changed, then the Bible is a lie. It's happening exactly the way it's supposed to. Don't let the changing of name fool you. Because you're not letting the fact that the Israelites don't know who they are. You're not allowing that to fool you, are you? Just because they are no longer called the tribe of Reuben, the tribe of Gad, just because they are called Jamaicans now, just because they are called Haitians, just because they are called African Americans, just because they are called Igbos, just because they are called all these names, but you still know that they're Hebrew Israelite. So why would you not know that even though they are called Australians, even though they are called Canadians, even though they are called Americans, even though they are called the British, even though they are called the Spanish, how could you not know that it's still the same people? I think I've said in the past, the Most High does not want stupid people. The Most High wants intelligent people. That's why that's one of the reasons why he doesn't care about quantity. And that's one of the reasons why he keeps calling his people foolish, fools, stupid. Jeremiah chapter 5. Jeremiah chapter 5. Deuteronomy chapter 32. The Most High keep calling his people fools. They're foolish. Is that a good thing? No. Because he doesn't want stupid people. He wants people who are intelligent. And it's a foolish thing to be following these Gentiles. It's a foolish thing to be following them. They are going to their grave. So, what do we have today? Majority of our people are following them. We send our children to them. They educate our children. And we are happy. We are celebrating. We are celebrating and we count it as achievement. Oh my goodness. If not for the task that I have, if not for the work I have to do, honestly, I'm gonna go somewhere, go look for an island or something, go somewhere and just go away, because I can't stand this stupidness, this foolishness that for our people. But at the same time, I know that they don't know. I know they are ignorant. I know they don't know who they are. But are we going to continue in foolishness till how long? I know that most of us are not doing this thing intentionally. I know that most of us are not ignoring the law intentionally. I understand they don't know who we are. But that's not an excuse. It's like someone who is eating something that is killing them. And they don't know that that thing will actually kill them. Are we going to say, well, they don't know, so let's let them continue to smoke because they don't know? That's not a good excuse. At some point, we have to say, no, we have to stop smoking. That thing is destroying your lungs. So we can't the continuing in this path is dangerous, disastrous, because the Most High will not care. When the time comes, He's going to take those who are ready. That's why you have the parable in Matthew chapter 25 about parable of the 10 virgins. So when we uphold these people, lift them up, abandon the education system that Yah gave us, send over our children to the heathen for them to train our children. When we celebrate their holy days or their holidays and abandon the holy days of the Most High, when we dress like them, when we eat like them, that completely goes against what our Father told us not to do in Jeremiah chapter 10 verse 2. Jeremiah chapter 10 verse 2 told us not to do it. Don't learn the ways of the heathen. In Proverbs chapter 3:31, Proverbs 3:31, it says, "Envy not your oppressor, and learn none of his ways." We are envying them today. We want to be like them. We want to be like the Europeans. We, the Hebrews, the black people, if you want to call them the black people, we're not fighting to be like the Chinese. We don't want to be like the Chinese. We're not trying to be like the Mexicans. We're not trying to be like the Japanese. We want to be like the Europeans. We want to be like the Europeans. And once we let them educate us, once we want their validation, and once we get it, we're like we're so happy, we're celebrating, and then we look down on every one of our brothers and sisters who have not gotten the validation of our enemy. And this now makes us our worst enemy. Because once we get the validation of our enemy by going to their school, getting their certificate, and getting a job from them, being their slave, once we get to that level, we now look down on every single one of our brothers and sisters. And that is why people ask you. They ask you questions like, are you educated? How many degrees do you have? What did you study? So in the mind of our own people that have gone up to their enemies, that have envied their oppressor and got validation from their oppressor, if you don't join them to go up and envy your oppressor and be like your oppressor, to them, you are uneducated. And that means that you are a nobody in their eyes. So this helps you to understand why we have, or why we could have, Zechariah chapter 13 verse 8 and 9. Zechariah 13 verse 8 and 9. I came over here right now to go through the book of the law. I have no idea what I'm doing right. Like, this is not what I plan to do. But I think this is what Yah wants you to know. I wanted us to go through the book of the law. Go down on your neighbor. I guess we're dealing with your neighbor because they're not your neighbor. They are not your neighbor. They are your enemy. That's why Yah is destroying them. Oh. So Zechariah chapter 13 verse 8 and 9 talks about the two-third. Now, two-third is when you have 100%, you take away 66.6%. That's a lot. The only thing that is left, like 66%, will be destroyed. Only 33.4%. So education is actually dangerous when it comes from the Gentiles, because it destroys whatever is left in the mind of our people. It just destroys it. So this is the situation that we live in today. But it's also a situation that we have to learn. We have to learn. Don't worry about other people, just worry about you making sure that you're doing it before you now try to help others. So that means that those around you, the kids around you, your children, your grandchildren, your whatever family, whatever, try to be a light unto these, especially the young people, so that they don't all end up going up to make the same mistakes that we made. So what they are going through right now is what the Most High is doing. It's a plague. It is so interesting because there was something that they were trying to explain. They don't know why. They don't know. And this is when Yah is doing it, this is how it happens. They don't know why is it that their men are having low sperm count. They don't know why. And I was listening to some of them discuss this. And they were just guessing. Somebody said it could be because of the too much chemicals on their food. I think one of them said something like, if I remember correctly, he may have said something, what about all the other men? Because around the world, the European men are the ones having problem with their sperm. It can be food or chemicals, because they are not eating a different kind of food. Everybody is going to the store and buying the same thing. So if it's about food, it should be affecting men of all races, right? But this is what Yah does. And most people will not know that Yah is doing this. I've really, really, really want you to understand Bible prophecy. I've told you many times, when Bible prophecy is being fulfilled, it fulfills undetected. Now, if I am God, I will make sure that anything that I say will happen, when it happens, everybody will know that it's happening. So that they will respect me, they will fear me, and my ego will come up. And I'll be like, look at me, I'm so powerful. That's what I would do. If I'm God, whenever I say that something will happen and it's written down, when that thing is happening, I'll make sure that everybody knows. So that all news will bow down and everybody will fear me. But the Most High does not think like me. Rather, he does it the opposite way. This is the reason why you have Isaiah chapter 53. And the Hebrew Israelites had that book for a long time. They have Isaiah chapter 53 and they knew about Isaiah 53. But when Yeshua showed up and began to fulfill the prophecy in Isaiah 53, they did not know that it was him. They did not know. Oh my goodness, I wish you can understand this. So the Most High intentionally locks prophecy that not everybody can understand it. And that's why most people don't understand the book of Revelation. Most people don't understand the book of Revelation because Yah locked it. That's why it's talking about beast, dragon, red horse, black horse. What does that mean? But those are code words that Yah used to lock it. Because Bible prophecy is not meant for everyone. It's only meant for those who are keeping the law. They are the only ones who are allowed to know what will happen in the future. And when you do know those things, people are going to start thinking that you're crazy. You can explain it to them, they will still not understand it because it's not meant for them. Example of this is 2nd Esdras. So in the book of 2nd Esdras, I really encourage you to read it. 2nd Esdras. It's not that long. Maybe like 16 something chapters. Start from the beginning. You're going to get so much knowledge. Read the whole thing. And as always, if you have any question, you're more than welcome to bring up the question. If you see something there that you don't understand. So if you read the book of 2nd Esdras, Prophet Esdras, has so many questions for Yah. And he was asking. And that was good. Because as he was asking those questions, he was getting the answer. And that helped us to understand what will happen in the future. But at some point, the Most High told him to take some of the books that he wrote, some of the things that was revealed to him. Yah told him to put some of those books away. They were not meant for all Israel. Even our Heavenly Father is discriminating within the Hebrew Israelites. Our Heavenly Father cares more about certain people within the Hebrew Israelite. Who are those people? Those who are taking the law seriously. Those that love keeping the commandment. Those that are very zealous in keeping the commandment. They are special treasure to the Most High. And they are number one to him. What does he do to the rest? Well, look at what happened in the wilderness. What did he do to those people that rose up against Moses? He killed them. What did he do to the two sons of Aaron that went inside the tabernacle while they were drunk? He killed them. What did he do to the man that touched the Ark of the Covenant? He was dead. The Most High has not changed. All these Hebrew Israelites you see today that are refusing to keep the law, dead. They are nothing. They will be destroyed. And you have the prophecy in Amos chapter 9, 9 and 10. Prophecy that says that he will do it. He would kill these people. Destroyed. They are worthless. They are nothing. Because any Hebrew Israelite, any man or woman, any African American, any Igbo person, any of these Hebrew Israelites, wherever you are scattered in the four corners of the earth, Jamaica, Belize, Trinidad, wherever you are, any Hebrew Israelite that decides to start acting like the Europeans, any Hebrew Israelite to decide to start learning from the Europeans, that decide to start behaving like the Europeans, you are killing yourself. You're committing suicide. You're making yourself worthless. The Most High will destroy you just like He's destroying them. Eventually, you're going to waste away with them. They are wasting away right now. Go see what they're going through in South Africa. So the Most High only cares about those who are interested in keeping the law. You also have Malachi chapter 3 from verse 14. So the Bible prophecy is not meant for the whole world. Bible prophecy is not meant for all Israel. It's not even meant for all Israel. It's only meant for those who are serious about keeping the law, who are actually with all their heart and with all their soul, they love keeping the law. They don't care about nothing. They don't care about money. They don't care about you giving them money. They don't care about blessings from Yah. They don't care about none of that. They just love keeping Yah's law because it's the right thing to do. They are the kind of people that Yah will open their eyes, and that's the people that Yah meant those prophecy for. So during the time of Yeshua, very few people believed that he was the Savior. Very few. They have Isaiah 53. But Yah intentionally locked it. Yah intentionally locked it. And it actually tells you in Isaiah 53. It was intentionally locked. This is what your God always do. He does this. And you have to know this, so that you can be able to understand the times that you're living in. So I have a situation that happened to my people. My people are living under the curses of Deuteronomy chapter 28. If I can let me call them my tribe. My tribe. So I make video. I've done different videos addressing, that's meant for my people, my tribe. Yeah, that would be the right thing to call them. They're my tribe. So they were trying to exactly the same thing you saw during the time of Malcolm X, during the time of Martin Luther King. They are trying to do something like that. Well, they're trying to do more than that. They're trying to get a country. But where we are right now, Yah put us there, and Yah sent our enemies. And they came from foreign land, and they're ruling over us. They rule over us. So my people are trying to get away from that rulership. They are trying to create their own country. So I made a video trying to warn them, tell them that that's not going to work. That the Most High is doing this to us. That video has more than 100,000 views. I got death threats. That video went viral. When people know about that video, and I met somebody and was like, oh, I saw the video. So a lot of them watched it. They didn't like what they were hearing. Because what they were hearing is that you're wasting your time. All this stuff we're going through, our God is doing this to us. We need to go back and keep the laws and the commandments. And our God will send away our enemies and they will leave us alone. That is the only solution. We have to keep the law, our enemies will go away. Well, some people don't want to give up lying. Some people don't want to give up stealing. Some people don't want to give up fornicating. Some people don't want to give up adultery. Some people don't want to give up whatever they're doing. So, the solution is to keep the law and we will be fine. We'll be freed. They don't want to do it. But rather, I am the evil one. I get threats. Is this new? No. That's why Isaiah was dead. That's why Jeremiah was dead. That's why they were chasing around Ezekiel or Elijah. But all these prophets, that's how they all died. All killed. Killed by who? Killed by the Gentiles? No, killed by the Hebrews. What did these men do wrong? What did Isaiah do wrong? What did Jeremiah do wrong? This is to show you how evil our people are. What did these prophets do wrong? What were they doing? They were all doing one thing in common. They all have one thing in common. Telling the Israelites, you have to go back to the Most High. You have to keep the law. Or people don't want to. Is that enough reason to kill someone? If you don't want to hear what he's saying, go away. Mind your own business. But our people had to kill them. Now you understand why we're going through what we're going through today? Do you understand why the Most High had to scatter us in the four corners of the earth? That is because we were evil. Because of our wickedness. So the Most High sends a messenger to warn us. What do? We kill that messenger. We deserve everything we're going through today. Everything. Actually, we deserve worse than what we're going through because of the abomination and the evil, the wickedness of our ancestors. And for some reason, we refuse to not walk in the ways of the wickedness of our fathers. Because what we need to do is to abandon that wickedness and go back and keep the law. What is so difficult with treating your neighbor like yourself? Which we're going to go back to the neighbor. We will go back to the neighbor and understand fully well who your neighbor is. Your neighbor is not a Mexican. Your neighbor is not European. Your neighbor is your fellow Hebrew Israelite. Example, David and his son. Yah said, I will give your wife to your neighbors. And I'm going to go back to that original setting, the way we used to live. If you come to Africa, you see that the house next door is a relative. A relative. We call it your kingsmen. Your kingsmen. Your cousins and your nephews, they live all around. We all live together. That doesn't happen in America or in Europe. It doesn't happen there. It happens in the Middle East. It happens in Africa, where we all live together. We all live together. That's your neighbor, your brother, your sister, your cousin. You may be from this family. I'm from that family. You're my neighbor. But at the end of the day, we're all from the same tribe. We're from the same tribe. We may not be from the same family, but we're from the same tribe. So there is something that there's something that is going on, which I also pointed out in some of those videos. Some of them I do it in Igbo language, so you may not hear what I'm saying. And that's our enemies. They will come in with their cows. They have cows. So these are our enemies. They are known as the Fulanese. They will come in with their cows into our land. And they will take their cows and just go in, and their cows will be destroying. This is what happens in Igbo land today within my tribe. It's been happening. And it was documented. People will use their phone and be videoing it, and they will have AK-47. Our enemies will have a gun. So they have like AK-47, and they will take their cow to just graze through the crops, through your garden. There's not much you can do. This happens. So you can go on YouTube or something and type in herdsmen. You type in herdsmen in Igbo land. I despise calling all this colonial name like Ghana, Cameroon, Nigeria. I hate calling those places those names, because these are places that was created by our enemy. Our enemy created Nigeria. Our enemy created Ghana. Our enemy created these. What do I mean by create? What I mean by create is that they are the ones that gave you those names. They are the ones that told our people, you are now Ghanaians. You are now Nigerians. You are now this. Our enemies, the Europeans, did this. And I always tell my people, do you think that if you and I go to Europe and bring the Irishman, bring the Frenchman, bring the Spanish man, and we bring them together and we give them a flag and we say, hey, this is your flag now. You, the Irishman, you, the Frenchman, you, the Spanish man, both of you, you are now a country. And here's your flag. Do you think that they will allow us to do that? They would never allow us to come create a country, in their land. But we allow them to come and do it to us. So you have to begin to understand who you are. Understand how valuable you are. This is one of the things that are killing our people. Low self-esteem. Low self-esteem. Understand that you are a child of a king. It's very embarrassing for a child of the king to go in the slum, in a very bad, smelly, disgusting neighborhood, and go there and just go be under the children, to go be under a poor children that live in the slum. That's embarrassing. That king will be embarrassed. This is a child that's supposed to take over the kingdom. Do you understand that Isaiah chapter 14 will be fulfilled? Do you understand that these nations are going to be your slave if you make it into the kingdom? Do you understand that these people are going to be coming up to you according to Isaiah chapter 2 and wanting your people to teach them? Once you begin to see yourself the way that your God sees you, then you realize how crazy it is to look up to these people. When you see them the way that your God sees them, then you realize, whoa, no. I can't allow my father to see me dealing with these people. So we have such a low self-esteem. That's why our men shave their beard, because they want to be like their oppressor. And that's why our women put those blonde hair in their hair, because they want to be like their oppressor. And that's why they now cover their face and put those paint in their face, because they want to be like their oppressor. Put the wigs, the fake wigs. So we're not comfortable the way our Maker created us. We want to be like other people. It goes back to that psychological chains that we're still in. It's a psychological chains. How can we fulfill Isaiah chapter 14 if we have the mindset that they are better than us, when every single whatever you want to look at proves otherwise? You don't have to worry about sunscreen to go outside. They have to worry about sunscreen, sunburn. You don't have to worry about sunglasses to go outside. They have to worry about their eyes. Your God made you superior in every way, stronger. For women, more beautiful. You can't compare compare a Gentile woman to a Hebrew woman in a normal circumstances. You cannot compare a Gentile, a Chinese, a Japanese, Mexican. You can't compare a Gentile woman to a Hebrew woman. It's not the same. But now you can compare, because when the Hebrew woman has now rejected the things that made her a Hebrew woman, well, I guess you can compare. When you begin to reject the natural attributes of yourself, when you don't know who you are, when you're not dressing like a Hebrew woman, when you're not talking like a Hebrew woman, when you're not acting like a Hebrew woman, then it's easy to compare you with the people of other nations, and you will be at the bottom. But when you go back and become who you're supposed to be, act like a Hebrew woman, talk like a Hebrew woman, dress like a Hebrew woman, automatically you find out that it's uncomparable. So the Most High, by what we can see physically, He not only did He say that He chose us to be, before He even chose us, He created us to be superior. Now you can say that I'm a black supremacist. That's okay. That's fine. You can say that I'm a racist. I like that too. Yeah, I am actually a racist, because our God is a racist. If you accuse me of being a racist, what would you do to the one? What would you say to the one that created all different races? Because if racism is a bad thing, then the Most High had done something bad. Why would He create people of different colors? So our Heavenly Father is actually racist when He keeps telling us, separate yourself from them, separate yourself from them, separate yourself from them, separate yourself from them. That will be classified as racism. So this is the root cause of our problem today. The fact that we abandon the scripture and we now begin to follow people that we shouldn't be following. This is why we are sick. This is why we go through all this pain and suffering, because we're following them. You were born into a system of where you don't have any choice. Your ancestor, your mom and your dad put you into a system to follow them. They themselves was born into a system where they follow them. You were born, you go to school, you get a job. That's not the way. That's not how it works. So the situation that we are in today, the reason why we are going through these struggles that we're going through today is because we are following our oppressor and envying them. But once you stop doing that, once you break away from doing that and begin to follow the scripture and begin to try to live the way that the Hebrews lived, once you begin to do that, you see, if you are following the Gentiles and you live among the Gentiles, you will most likely not own your own house in your lifetime. Most likely. Because when you live in a house in Europe or in America and you're paying mortgage, that's not your house. That's a little pathetic satanic lie. Oh, you have a house. Really? Yeah, don't pay the property tax. They throw you out. That's not yours. Don't pay the mortgage. They throw you out. So I'm not talking about that kind of owning a house. I'm talking about actually owning a house. If you continue to follow the ways of the Gentiles and follow the Europeans in their system, you will most likely not own a house in your lifetime. You will most likely die. First of all, you're going to get old much faster because of too much work. You work way more than you're supposed to. If you follow the Hebrew culture, you don't have to work like that. Because Yah don't want his children to be slaves. So he has a different system where you don't have to work the way you work now. So too much work makes you get older much faster. And a lot of our people are doing night shift, which is even worse. That will make you to get older much faster. And that will also weaken your immune system. It's a disaster following these people, following the Gentiles. It's been a disaster. But if you switch and begin to follow the Hebrew culture, all of a sudden, you now see a prospect of actually owning your own home, of actually working less, of actually, these are things that are possible. But what did Yah say? Come out from among them and be separate. Come out from among them and be separate. Second Corinthians chapter 6 verse 17 and 18. Come out from among them and be separate. Because as long as you are among them, these things will not be possible. Yah don't want us to be around them. That's why today is always a good time to start saving. It's always a good time to start saving. There was a brother that some years ago, he began to hear from me. He started listening to me talk about how you have to get out. because your captivity is over, but the oppression continues. But the captivity is over. Your ancestor couldn't escape, but now you can. And Yah is now calling on his people to leave. Isaiah 48 verse 20. Isaiah 48:20. Revelation 18:4. Revelation 18:4. Isaiah 48:20. So this brother he didn't want to leave. He was scared. Let me put it that way. He was scared because he feels that he has nothing. That's how he felt. He felt that he had nothing. He told me this. He said he understand exactly what I was saying. He understand Isaiah chapter 47, Isaiah 48. He understand Revelation chapter 18. He knows that Yah is telling us to leave, to get away from the Gentiles. He knows that. But he told me that he will not leave. He's not going to leave America. That before he goes anywhere and, before he moves, he's going to make sure that he's going to have everything he needs to survive where he's going. So if he doesn't have enough money or resources to survive in the place that he's going, that he's not going to go. This was a couple of years ago that he told me this. Well, maybe about a month or two ago, he was so excited, and he started telling me how grateful he is to have came across or to hear from me, that he's so grateful that in the beginning that he didn't really, he didn't accept, or because he doesn't have anything. And I'm telling you this so that you can know. Because I know the game that Satan is playing. Satan wants you to be scared, because Satan wants you to be closer to his children. So he want to scare you into thinking that you are a nobody, you have nothing, you can't really leave. That's not true. The Israelites had nothing in Egypt. What did they left with? The question is, are you going to obey Yah and trust Yah and leave? Would you want to leave? Do they want to leave? They didn't want to leave Egypt. They didn't want to go. Our people have not changed. Our people have been the same. We've not changed, and we're getting worse. Look at Moshe, the man that was helping them. At some point, they start thinking a way of killing him. It's a man that was helping you. He doesn't have to do it. Man that was helping you, he doesn't have to do it. But just because you don't have water to drink, now it's his fault. Our people we're very wicked. Those that are not keeping the law. That's why I keep telling you, be very careful with any Hebrew Israelite who are not keeping the law. Be very careful. If you underestimate, if you don't listen to this warning, you may end up paying very dearly. Any Hebrew Israelite that refuses to keep the law is dangerous. Be very careful when you deal with them. Don't trust them, because they are capable of anything. Give them enough money, they will do anything. Without these laws, without the laws and the commandments in the book of Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, without these laws, we are animals. And in some cases, we are worse than animals, because animals actually have compassion sometimes. So any Hebrew Israelite that refuses to keep this law, be careful when you deal with them. Even those that claim to keep the law. Sometimes there are some that claim to keep the law. They wear their fringes, they grow their beard, they wear their veil. But you're dealing with a child that came straight from Satan, masquerading as a Hebrew Israelite masquerading as if they're keeping the law. You have to be careful. What is the solution? Don't trust anybody. Don't even trust me. You are a fool if you trust me. Be skeptical of anybody. Yeah, brother, sister, we praise, we laugh, but in the back of your mind, always remember that this brother or this sister is capable of doing anything. Never let your guard down. Unfortunately for us, unfortunately, Satan is literally fighting us. Like I always tell you, Satan is not going to send you a Christian. Satan will not send a Christian to tempt you. Do you understand that? Satan knows that you're not going to listen to a Christian. Satan knows that you're not going to believe a Christian. Satan, when he wants to get you, when he wants to tempt you, Satan will send you a Hebrew Israelite. Satan will send you a Hebrew Israelite man or woman that talks very well, looks very good, talks about the law. So what do you do in that situation? Everybody is a suspect. Do you understand? You don't trust anybody. Because we are living in a very dangerous time. Why? Because people refuse to keep the law. If I am keeping the laws, if 10 of us or all of us right here, we go find an island somewhere and we get into a boat and we travel for like days and days and days and days and days in this boat, and we finally get into that island and we live there, and all of us in that island, every single one of us love the Most High, and we will die rather than to break the law. That's how serious we are. If we are like that and we all try our very best to keep the law, do you think we will need keys in our doors? Do you think you worry about me lying to you? Do you think we'll be afraid of each other? Do you think you'll be worried about your children being around me? Do you think we'll be using a Gregorian calendar to keep the Sabbath? Do you think anybody is going to be breaking the Sabbath? So, the reason why the world is messed up is because we're not keeping the law. So, unfortunately, we were told, and I've shared that with you, Satan is warring against those who are keeping the commandments. It's written down for you in Revelation chapter 12. So, for Satan to attack you, Satan will not send a Christian because he's not stupid. He knows that you're not going to listen to a Christian. He knows that you're not going to have sex with a Christian. He's not going to seduce you with a Christian. Satan will seduce you with a Hebrew brother or a Hebrew sister, depending on who you are. So in the world that we live in right now, In a situation that we find ourselves, you don't trust anybody. If you trust me because you think whatever you think about me, you're deceiving yourself. And you shouldn't. Talks about how in the latter days that we shouldn't marvel if Satan turned himself into an angel of light. We shouldn't be surprised if his ministers turn themselves into ministers of righteousness. That if Satan is capable of turning himself into an angel of light, then we should not be surprised if his ministers turn themselves into ministers of righteousness. Do you understand what that means? That's not talking about Christians. That place was not talking about Christians. That was talking about law keepers. Christian pastors today, they are not pretending to be ministers of righteousness. They are not. They are presenting themselves that they are Christian pastors. That's it. A minister of righteousness is someone who is preaching the law. Because according to Psalm 119, verse 172, Psalm 119, verse 172, the commandments of the Most High is righteousness. The definition of righteousness is the commandment. So anybody who is preaching the law is the minister of righteousness. So the Bible is telling you that in the last days that ministers of Satan will now masquerade themselves and present themselves as ministers of righteousness. Again, this isn't talking about Christians. Not to talk down on my brothers, not to belittle my brothers, not to badmouth my brothers, not to say negative things about my brothers. But I cannot say because they are my brothers that I'm not going to point out the truth. And those my brothers, for example, are people, for example, those in IUIC that promote marrying Mexicans, that says that animal sacrifice is done away with, that promote going to church on Saturday. These are not from the Most High. So they and people that behave like that, they are the definition of ministers of Satan, masquerading and presenting themselves as ministers of righteousness. Because any man that tells you that Saturday is the Sabbath, as of today, this information is spreading like a wildfire. I know the kind of calls that I get. I know the kind of the way people are contacting me. When I started with this, we had to carry around papers. We have papers. Like information is on paper. So if I have to do something, I write it on paper. Like I write papers. The moon regulates the Sabbath, blah, 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 but on paper. Then I have to give it, that's how we carry papers. I was carrying papers around. Like literally papers. I had to put papers. I had to sit down and write papers, write stuff. We're supposed to keep the law. This is this. We're supposed to wear our fringes. I did it on papers. And then I give it to people. Today, people from different places, people can watch video and they share the video and then they share the video. It doesn't matter where you are. This thing is spreading like wildfire. And it's no coincidence. Yah wants it to be that way. So in this day and age that knowledge is increasing, like it says in Daniel, these wicked brothers of mine are still putting their head in the sand and still saying that Saturday is the Sabbath. That's evil. That is evil. That is wickedness. Where you now have even the Gentiles coming out and admitting that the moon is the calendar. But then you see the Hebrews saying that the moon is not this calendar. It's not regulating the Sabbath. This is no different than what happened in the wilderness. And what did Yah do? He killed them, destroyed them. I wish that there will be more people who are genuine when it comes to preaching the law, which is the solution. The law is the solution. The law is the solution for everything. The law is the solution for everything. The law is the key for everything. The law is the key for your sickness. The law is the key for your success. The law is key for long life. The law is the key to eternal life. The law is the key for everything. Because if you're not keeping the law, Proverbs 28 verse 9, nothing will, the Most High will not even hear your prayer. Proverbs 28 verse 9. The law is the key. So, Bible prophecy, when they're being fulfilled, most people don't know. That's the way the Most High designed it to be. So, you simply knowing this, what I just explained about how Bible prophecy gets fulfilled undetected, meaning that people will not know. You simply knowing this, that's a treasure. At least you now know how things work when it comes to Bible prophecy. This is why during the time of Noah, people did not know. Do you think that if they had known that all these people in this world, that not even one person went to Noah and said, can you please tell me more about why you're building this thing? And they never even changed their mind and decided to join him. Do you think that Yah would have kicked that person out? No. If anybody from anywhere had gone up to Noah and joined Noah, Yah would not kick him out or kick her out. Yah will not do it. Because it wasn't his intention to destroy the whole world. It's his way, it's his desire and his wish that none of us will perish. We perish because of our choice. Even the Gentiles, Yah gave them a chance. That's how loving and how caring he is. Even though he created them to use them against his people, the Hebrews. Even though he lifted them up to use them to oppress his people. This man or this God, like he says that he is a man of war. This God still gave them a chance. And that chance is found in Isaiah chapter 65. Even though Yah considered them to be nothing, he still gave them a chance to be saved. And they rejected it. They didn't want it. Go read Isaiah 65. That's how merciful Yah is. He still gave them a chance. All they had to do is just keep the law. Read Isaiah 65. They don't want it. And Yah is like, okay, no problem. When the time comes, you will see what I'm going to do to my chosen people. And you will see what I'm going to do to you. Or the elect. Because not all the chosen will be saved. Many are called, few will be chosen. Matthew 22:14. Many are called, few are chosen. So Bible prophecy gets fulfilled undetected. During the time of Noah, they did not know. Noah was one stupid, crazy, mentally ill man walking around, and everybody thought that he was crazy until it was too late. You and I are living in that situation. We are living in a time that is like that time. The question is, am I going to be willing to be the crazy one? Are you going to be willing to be that crazy one? Because it says in James chapter 4:4, James 4:4, that friendship with the world is enmity to Yah. Friendship to the world is enmity to Yah. And if you refuse to be the friend of the world world will laugh at you. They will say you're crazy. They will say you've lost your mind. They will say you're mentally ill for believing some book that some people wrote some time ago. Many people will not make it into the kingdom because they don't want to look different. They don't want to act different. They don't want to behave different. They want to be like everyone else. Look how that worked out during the time of Noah. Look at what happened during the time of Noah, how that worked out. That's why we must be separate. We must be separate. Yes, they will say you're crazy. Yes, they will say you've lost your mind. That's okay. They say Christ was crazy too. You know that? They said that Christ was crazy. That's what they said. He was crazy. And that was Christ. That was Yeshua. And that's why he told you what he told you in Matthew chapter 5. When they say all these things against you, don't worry. That's okay. That you're not the first person. Somebody told me something like maybe some weeks ago or some months ago, and I can't believe that they would tell me that. Like, I didn't expect that to come from somebody. Like, this person is someone that we talk, and they said to me, I want to ask you a question. I was like, okay, what is the question? And she said to me, she said, is it true that you have been used for some kind of a ritual? Is it true that you were used by your father? That was her question. Is it true that your father used you for money ritual? And she said that, I'm asking you this. Now, what I'm telling you is a huge insult. This person was insulting me. It's like somebody punching you in your stomach. Not just what they were saying. Some of you may not understand what this means. If you grew up in Africa, you understand that this is a huge insult. If you grew up in Africa. But what makes it even worse was the person it was coming from. I didn't expect it. But the reason why they were able to ask me this question was because they believed it. So they said to me, maybe I should give you a background so you understand how serious this is. So in Africa, sometimes we understand, sometimes people will use their children for human sacrifice. Same thing you read in the Bible that Yah told us not to do. People actually do stuff like that. They will actually do human sacrifice. It happens till this day. It still happens sometimes. You see on Facebook where they cut off the breast of a girl. They cut off their breasts. Sometimes they cut off people's head. They use the head for human sacrifice to demons. They still do it. So that's a huge insult when someone asks you, did your dad use you for money sacrifice? So this person asked me this question. And then she said, the reason why I'm asking you this is because I had a rumor. I had a rumor. And that rumor says that your dad used you for a sacrifice, for a ritual. That's the reason why you behave the way you behave. That people are saying that the reason why you're behaving like this, like you're mentally ill or something, is because your dad used you as a human sacrifice. And I said to her, well, if your dad used you as a human sacrifice, would you know? Would you know that they used you? You probably wouldn't know. So how would I know? How would I know? And then I thought about the question. And that question that person asked me showed me exactly how they see me. So they think I'm crazy. They think I have some kind of mental illness because I chose to follow the Bible. I'm crazy. They saw that what I do, I'm doing because of the Bible. So my mental illness was that decision to follow the Bible. That was the mental illness. Really? I'm mentally ill because I'm following the Bible? And this person is a Hebrew. Now, where did she get that information from? From a relative of mine. So not only the question that she asked me showed me that she thinks, because the only way she will believe that, this is someone that knows me and I know them. They know what I'm doing. They know why I'm doing what I'm doing. They know why I have my beard. They know why I do what I do. So for them to even ask me that question, it's like somebody asking you this, saying to you, is it true that your dad made you retarded? That's like literally what she was asking me. Is it true that your dad made you retarded? I had a rumor, and people were saying that your dad, actually, people that know you, say that your dad made you retarded. So what that question, when someone asks you a question like this, that means that they're thinking that you're retarded. And the thing is, I never even saw that question coming from this person. I never expected that person to ask me a question. Like, that caught me off guard. Because what they're indirectly telling me is that they think I'm crazy. And the interesting thing about this is that when I ask them, are we supposed to keep the law? They will tell me yes. Should we keep the law? Yes. So why aren't you keeping it? So they even agree with me that we have to keep the law. So these are the kind of how people see you sometimes, and you have to come to a conclusion that this is what it is. If you're going to follow the scripture, people will think you're crazy. Okay, I already know. Okay, I'm going to move on. That's how because we have to be set apart. So I want to actually complete something that I had told you before. I told you that in my tribe, our enemies are walking around with their cows, and their cows are literally destroying the crops of the Hebrews of my tribe. This happens. If you watch some of my videos that I did addressing my people, telling them why these things are happening to us, you will see the pictures where you see these men with guns, with machine guns sometimes, and their cows will just be running loose and just eating people's crops. It's happening. It's happening. I have someone that was using my land, and they were using my land, and I was speaking with my mother, and I was asking my mother about that person, if they have taken their food from the land. See, you don't have to have a land in Africa to grow your own food. You can actually borrow a land. People that have more land will give you their land, and you can use it for 1 year to grow your food. But Satan wants you to be scared because he wants you to continue to stay with his children. And eventually you're going to die a premature death due to all the chemicals in the food, in the air, and all the crap. You can't be happy because you're always running around trying to pay bills. So I asked the question, and my mother told me, that actually some of those, our enemies, they went into that land with their cows, and their cow destroyed the crops that belonged to that woman that was using the land. This is what the Hebrews in West Africa are going through right now. So as long as we continue to be in denial, rejecting who we are, refusing to keep the law, we will continue to suffer. And when I try to tell them this, oh, I'm the evil one. So let's go to Judges chapter 6. And you see the same thing has happened in the past to our people. And Yah did it. So when I tell them right now that, let's go to Judges chapter 6. Judges chapter 6, so you can see same thing happening right now has happened before. Judges chapter 6. Judges chapter 6. Start from verse 1. Judges chapter 6 from verse 1. Judges chapter 6 from verse 1. The Israelites did what was evil in the sight of Yah. And Yahweh gave them into the hand of the Midianite, of the Midian, 7 years. Judges chapter 1 from chapter 6 from verse 1. Judges chapter 6 from verse 1. The Israelites did what was evil in the sight of Yahweh, and Yahweh gave them into the hands of the Midianites 7 years. That's the same thing we're going through today. Whether you're in America, whether you're in Africa, wherever you are. In one way or the other, your enemies are ruling over you. Verse 2. The hand, meaning force, power, authority of the Medians, the hand of Midian prevailed over Israel. Everywhere we are, our enemies are always prevailing over us. They can kill us and they can get away. If we kill them, they turn around and they kill more of us. So the hands of our enemy is prevailing over us. This is what happened in the past. It's still happening, but most people don't see it. Most people think that these are just events happening. You see that man that was killed in his apartment in Texas or wherever that place was? That's part of the hands of our enemy. You see, all the stuff you see happening, that's the hands of our enemy against us. So these evil people, these little demons, they are not your neighbor. They are your enemies. Anyone that tells you that they are your neighbors, that person is your enemy. Because only your enemy will want you to think that your enemy is your neighbor. Anyone that tells you that these other nations are your neighbors, that person is your enemy. Because only your enemy will want you to look at your enemy as your neighbor. And when you look at your enemy as your neighbor, you are doomed. Because then now he will kill you slowly and enjoy killing you slowly. Verse 2, Judges chapter 6 verse 2. The hand of Midian prevailed over Israel. Who gave Israel over to Midian? The Most High. Why did the Most High give Israel over to the Midian? Because they did evil in the sight of Yah. What is the evil in the sight of Yah? Breaking the law, lying, stealing, cheating, fornicating, committing adultery, breaking the Sabbath, refusing to dress moderately. Verse 2, the hands of Midian prevail over Israel. And because of Midian, the Israelites provided for themselves hiding places in the mountain. This has also happened after it happened here. It happened in 70 AD. The Most High likes to repeat himself. So when you do listen to me and you hear me repeat myself a lot, I'm simply trying to convey the message the way it's been presented. Okay? The Most High likes to repeat himself. That's why you read in the book of the law. You're reading the book of Leviticus. All of a sudden, all you see, keep the Sabbath. Honor your father, honor your mother. Yeah, we'll be talking about something else. All of a sudden, he just says, keep my Sabbath, observe my Sabbath. And then you keep reading. And then you see, eventually you see, keep my Sabbath. The Most High keeps repeating himself so that if you don't hear it the first time, you can hear it the second time. If you don't hear it the second time, you hear it the third time. So, what you see here was eventually repeated again. When our ancestors was oppressed or driven out of Jerusalem in 70 AD, that was your original land. That was your original land. When our ancestors was driven out, where did they go? They fled out and they fled into Africa. Our ancestors fled into Africa. And they thought they've gotten away from the Most High. And they relaxed in Africa. Guess who showed up in the 1600s? Our enemies. Well, let's continue reading and see how it happened here in the past. Our people still refuse to learn. We refuse to see these things that It's all documented. All we have to do is to read it and keep the law so that it doesn't repeat itself again. So, it says in verse 2, look how we try to get away. Okay, so since Yah is sending these people to kill us, right? This is our mentality, and we still have it till today. Since Yah is sending them to kill us, let's fight for civil rights. Let's fight for integration. How did that work out? Where is Martin Luther King today? Where is Malcolm X? Let's fight for Biafra. Let's fight for all the stuff we're fighting for. And since all the time we've been fighting, none of them have worked. And it's making the situation worse. People who are intelligent will be like, we've been trying all these things for many, many, many years. Let's try something else. And the solution is keeping the law. We're in this mess because we're breaking the law. But look at what our ancestors did. So look at Judges chapter 6. So initially we began to do evil in the sight of Yah. He sends our enemies to rule over us. Instead of turning back to our Heavenly Father that sent our enemies, what did we do? We tried to get away. Oh my goodness. And did Yah leave us alone? Well, let's see. Because it's Yah's way or no way. So verse 2. The hand of Midian prevailed over Israel. And because of Midian, the Israelites provided for themselves a hiding places in the mountains, caves, and strongholds. Verse 3. For whenever the Israelites put in seed, the Midianites and the Amalekites and the people of the east will come against them. Black Wall Street. Black Wall Street. Go and look it up. Why am I doing this? This is for you to see how Bible prophecy gets fulfilled. Most of these events that you hear about that are happening, even the ones that are happening right now, these are Bible prophecies that are being fulfilled. You need to understand it. You need to pack your bag spiritually. Pack your bag and be ready, because that kingdom is almost here. It's happening. And typically, Yah does not want everybody to know that these things are happening. So when our ancestors, what did we do? We began to build what they call Black Wall Street, right? Go and study how that was destroyed. Those in West Africa began to fight for Biafra. Go and study how that was destroyed. The war between Biafra and Nigeria. So instead of turning to the Most High, think about that. How difficult is this? I have not seen a law yet where the Most High is telling us to do something that is so horrible that we're like, it's so horrible that we can't do. If there's a law like that, I can understand why we're refusing to go back and keep the law. I have not seen. What is so difficult with me being told to work for 6 days and rest on the 7th day? When I finish here right now, I'm going to eat and I'm going to relax, sleep, and just enjoy myself and relax. Sleep very well, because I don't sleep very well the rest of the 6 days. I don't. I don't sleep very well because I have to work really hard. So Sabbath day is a day of rest. What is so difficult? What is so difficult in me staying away from pork, which is a very dirty, unhealthy animal? What is so difficult in me keeping these laws, growing my beard, which is natural? Something that my God gave me. This is part of me. This is part of my manhood. And if you don't like it, you need to go to hell. I have a relative, my mother's sister. When she sees me, she's like, "You have to shave that beard. Why do you have that beard? It makes you look old. It makes you look old. Is my beard in your face? Have I ever said anything to you when you put your fake hair in your head? So why are you saying something about my beard, which is natural?" And then they wonder why I'm staying away from them. So what is so difficult? Why are we refusing to keep this law? Love your neighbor. Keep the Sabbath. Wear your fringes. Don't steal. Don't lie. Why would we want to do that? Why would we want to steal? If everybody starts stealing, then we all will be stolen from. Stuff will be, we all will be victims of stealing. If we all start killing, we all will be victims of killing. So why are we so afraid of God's law? Why do we hate his law so much? That we would rather be trying all this crap, all this nonsense that are not working. Civil rights, integration, fighting for Biafra, fighting for this, getting their education, being educated by the Gentiles. None of these things are working, and we keep doing it. So, like here, instead of going back to the Most High, what did we do? We want to find solution, like we're doing today. They were doing it over here in Judges chapter 6. Let's continue. Judges chapter 6 says in verse 2, the hand of Midian prevailed over Israel, and because Midian, the Israelite, provided for themselves a hiding place. There are some people who are trying to get education and be educated, thinking that if they are educated, they will make more money and they will move to a nicer neighborhood and then they will avoid racism. That man that was killed in his apartment, wasn't he educated? Wasn't he inside his apartment when the Most High sent that girl to come inside his apartment and shot him to death? Verse 3, Judges chapter 6 verse 3. For whenever the Israelites put seed, the Midianite and the Amalekite and the people of the east will come up against them. Verse 4, they will encamp against them and destroy the produce of the land of the produce of the Hebrew Israelite, as far as the neighborhood of Gaza, and leave no substance in Israel, and no sheep or ox or donkey. Verse 5, Judges chapter 6 verse 5. For they and their livestock, their cows, their cattle, cow. For they and their livestock will come up, and they would even bring their tent as thick as locust, Neither they nor their camels could be counted. So they wasted the land as they came in. Verse 6. Thus Israel was greatly impoverished. Poor! Thus Israel was greatly impoverished because of Midian. Why are black Americans poor today? Welfare Act. Who gave you Welfare Act? Lyndon Johnson. When? In the 1960s. Who destroyed Black Wall Street? The Mexicans, the Chinese, the Japanese, the Europeans. That will be the right answer. Where does those white Americans come from? From Europe. The same place that the British people came from. That same British people were the same people that went over in the 1600s. They were the same people that established Nigeria. They were the same people that put up the other nations that they put in charge to rule over the Hebrews. It's not a coincidence. The same people who are oppressing you in America are the same people who are oppressing your people in Africa. So when I tell my people that the British or the Europeans are our enemies, automatically I'm evil. I'm a racist, I'm evil when this fact speaks for itself. They love to tell you how Africa is poor. But they were the one that rendered Africa impoverished. They steal the natural resources in Africa. So the Hebrews have oil, but they're not reaping the benefit of the oil that comes from the land, from the ground. This stuff are being shipped out to foreign countries. Am I not reading Hebrews chapter 6? Are you not seeing it there? So the Hebrews were, the Israelite was impoverished here in Judges chapter 6. It's not because they're not working hard. It was not because they were not working hard. It was not because they were not intelligent. Because if they are not, they are dumb and they were stupid. Because if not, they should go back to the Most High. And that's why I keep telling you, don't fight these people. Don't do all that nonsense that people do on the internet, calling them devil and, like in their face. Don't argue with them. That's a waste of time. Because they have no idea what you're talking about. They don't know what they're doing. The Most High is making them to do this. Psalm 105, verse 25. Psalm 105. Psalm 105, verse 25. Let's start from verse 24 or verse 23. Psalm 105 from verse 23. Psalm 105, verse 23 to 25. Then Israel came to Egypt. So we're talking about Israel. Then Israel came to Egypt. Jacob lived as an alien in the land of Ham. And Yah made his people very fruitful and made them stronger than their foes, whose hearts he then turned to hate his people and to deal with them craftily, to deal craftily with his servants. So the Most High was the one that now made the Egyptians to hate the Hebrew Israelite. Our Heavenly Father made the Egyptians to hate the Hebrews. So if you go to an Egyptian and you call him devil, you wicked devil, blah, 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 he doesn't know what you're talking about. Because it's spiritual. Your God is the one that makes them to hate you. So arguing with them is pointless. Fighting them, pointless. The only smart thing to do is to go to your knees, go to your Heavenly Father, repent from your sins, start keeping the law. That is the only solution. And the Most High will make them to go away from you. They will leave you alone. That is the only solution. So, as you can see here, the Hebrew Israelites, they were not impoverished because they were not working hard. Just like today. They are impoverished because their enemies are taking their resources, destroying their resources. And the so-called black community is the way it is right now because of what your enemy. Your enemy is not to be blamed, because we wouldn't have an enemy if we did not break the law. The Most High sent our enemies against us because we became disobedient and broke the law. Not one time. He kept sending prophets and we kept killing the prophets. He kept sending prophets and we kept killing the prophets. So this is not like we broke some law and Yah kicked us out. It's not a one-time thing. So we have to be fair. It's not a one-time thing. That's why you have all those prophets. He kept sending them, warning them. So you need to understand how deep this is. This is not like, oh man, Yah is so ruthless. You know, we broke the law. Do we have to go through all this? No, that's why he was sending prophets, warning us. What are we doing? We were killing the prophets. So instead of listening to the prophets, we keep killing them. That's how we got to where we are today. So it took a long time for us to have to come to the situation and come to the stage that we are in today. It took a long time. So that's why I told you that everything we're going through, we deserve. We deserve all of this. And we shouldn't be pointing finger. Because pointing finger at our enemy and saying that, oh, they're this, they're pointing, yeah, they're still evil. But we have to be honest. Like you see here in Judges that we read. You saw it. Judges chapter 6. What is the very first thing you read in Judges chapter 6? The very first thing, we have to be honest. Look at Judges chapter 6. The very first thing you read in Judges chapter 6 verse 1 is, it says, the Israelites did what was evil in the sight of Yah, and Yah gave them over to the hand of Midian. So if we start pointing finger at the Midians, and we start talking about how evil the Midians are, and we start pointing at, if we do that, and we totally just ignore the fact that we were evil in the sight of Yah, that's not fair. That's what we're doing today. Oh, they are oppressing us. Oh, they are killing us. Oh, they are doing all this. But we totally just ignore what we did to get to that situation. How can we ever come out of the situation if we can't even acknowledge that we did wrong? The very first thing to do, it will be to acknowledge, okay, we were wrong. We sinned against Yah. And Yah is doing this. We sinned. We can at least acknowledge and then repent. But if we go start fighting those enemies that Yah sent against us, first of all, you're not going to win. And we've never won. We've always been defeated. Because Yah is the one that sent them. Cussing them out is not going to solve the problem. Calling them devils will not solve the problem. Fighting them will not solve the problem. The solution is to go back to the Most High. How do you go back to the Most High? By keeping the laws with all our heart and with all our soul. Once we start doing that, then the Most High will handle them. The reason why he started handling them right now is because there has now been remnant from different parts of the world who are now waking up. And that brings a whole new situation, a whole new challenge for you and I. And that challenge is a very serious challenge. Will you and I, are we going to be able to be among those that Yah will choose? The elect, many are called, few are chosen. Matthew chapter 22:14. The challenge now is, are we going to be able to make it? Because Yah is not waiting on anybody. The fact that Yah is beginning to bring the Gentiles to the end, because the fact that we are now talking about their expiration date, do you understand? They are now talking about 200-300 years from now that they will not be here. So Yah is not waiting. Yah is making a complete end of them. So the question is, will you and I? That's the question for me. I don't know about you. Am I going to be able to be righteous enough to be among those people that Yah will choose? Because most Israelites are not going to make it. Only few will make it. How can that few make it? By doing exactly what Christ says in Revelation chapter 22 verse 14. By keeping the commandment. That's how that few is going to make it. Most people will not make it into the kingdom. And in order to be part of that few, you will certainly be considered crazy. Guaranteed. If people don't think you're crazy, you're not doing it right. If people don't think you're crazy, you're not doing it right. Because as soon as you begin to do the things that Yah wants you to do, dress the way He wants you to dress, eat the way He wants you to eat, so instead of pointing finger, again, it does not change or minimize the fact that our enemies are evil. The Most High says in Ezekiel chapter 7:24, Ezekiel 7:24, that He will send the worst of the Gentiles. He's not sending the Japanese against us. The Japanese are very simple people. They're not horrible people. They're not horrible people. They are kind of humble people. They're humble. Yah didn't send the Japanese against us. Yah didn't send these nations. Yah sent the worst of them. Ezekiel 7:24. So, and He calls them our enemies. Deuteronomy chapter 28 from verse 48. Deuteronomy chapter 28 from verse 48. He sent our enemies against us. So I'm not saying this to minimize who they are. I'm not saying this to minimize how evil they are. But at the same time, crying and pointing it out and yelling at them and fighting them will not solve the problem. The problem is to go back to our Heavenly Father. We will still acknowledge our enemy, because Yah will destroy them anyways. He's already destroying them. But we don't lose focus. We need to stick to maintaining that relationship, repairing the relationship, like Yah said in Deuteronomy chapter 4 from verse 25. Deuteronomy chapter 4 from verse 25. Deuteronomy chapter 4 from verse 25. Look at what Yah said to our ancestors. Not only did he speak to our ancestors, but Yah had you and I in mind. The Most High have you and I in mind while he was speaking here in Deuteronomy chapter 4 from verse 25. This is what he said to our ancestors. And eventually he began to talk about us. I know you may think maybe he's just exaggerating. I mean us. You and I are living and we're seeing the end of the fourth kingdom. The Most High is talking about us. This is that later days. Because the fourth kingdom is supposed to go down in the later days. The fourth kingdom weren't going down the way it is right now 2,000 years ago. They were strong. They were not going down 1,500 years ago like they are going down now. What's happening right now is unbelievably amazing. What's happening in Europe? They've lost Europe. That's unimaginable. What has happened between the last 15 years? So Deuteronomy chapter 4 from verse 25. When you have had children and children's children and become complacent in the land, if you act corruptly by making an idol in the form of anything, thou's doing what is evil in the sight of Yahweh your Elohim and provoking him to anger. Verse 26, Deuteronomy chapter 4, 26. I call heaven and earth to witness against you today that you will soon utterly perish from the land that you are crossing over Jordan to occupy. You will not live long in it, but will be utterly destroyed. Verse 27, Deuteronomy chapter 4, 27. Deuteronomy 4:27. Yahweh will scatter you among the peoples. Only a few of you will be left among the nations where Yah will lead you. Verse 28. There you will serve other gods made by human hands, object of wood and stone, that neither see nor smell nor eat. A lot of our people right now know about the Sabbath, but they won't keep the Sabbath because of their job. They need their job because they have to pay for their car. They need their car because they have to go to work and pay their mortgage. So these materialism have now become our gods. We're not keeping the law. We're breaking the law and disobeying the Most High because we have to pay our rent. These materialism have now become our gods. And according to 1 Samuel chapter 15, 1 Samuel chapter 15, verse 22 and 23. 1 Samuel chapter 15, verse 22 and 23. If you read 1 Samuel chapter 15, verse 22 and 23, you see that disobedient to the Most High, rebellion or disobedient to the Most High is like witchcraft. It's like witchcraft. Simply not doing what the Most High says to do. You're like literally worshiping another God. And that God will be Satan. So anybody who is breaking the Sabbath, anybody who is refusing to keep the law, they're worshiping Satan. And that's exactly what we're doing today. wherever we've been scattered. Verse 28, Deuteronomy chapter 4:28. There you will serve other gods made by human hands. Your cars, our houses, these have become gods to us. You see people that get pregnant, they will do abortion and they will say, well, I can't take care of the baby right now because I'm still in school, because I just got this job. I'm not really ready for a baby right now. And they will do abortion. That's human sacrifice. Like you're literally committing human sacrifice for money. So in order to maintain that career, in order to maintain the school, they will do abortion. Why are you going to school? Because of money. Why do you have a job? Because of money. So we disobey the Most High so that Satan can give us money. That's it. That's why Yas keeps telling you, come out from among them. Because it's difficult to avoid it when you are among them. At the end of the day, it comes down to this. We're disobeying Yah because the children of Satan are giving us money. That's it. That's what it comes down to. Who is Satan, the god of this world? 2 Corinthians chapter 4 verse 4. 2 Corinthians 4:4. Satan is the god of this world. These Europeans are his children. According to Revelation chapter 13 verse 2. Satan gave them power. Revelation 13 verse 2. So like I always say, if you're waiting for the day that Satan will come and punch you in your face, you're going to wait for a long time. You are already living in the satanic system right now. You are already dealing with the children of Satan. And their father is not going to show up because his children are very busy at work, and his children are doing a very good job. What Satan wants is to get you to not keep the law. Satan's responsibility is to distract you from the law. Tell me who does that better today than the Europeans? Who distracts you more today from keeping the law than the Europeans? Their movies, their education system, their church system, their government system, I mean, name it. So the book of Revelation is true. The book of Revelation is true on that prophecy. How Satan have given away his responsibility. So these things that are stopping us from keeping the law, because we have to pay bills, because we have to do this, all these things, because that's your job that requires you that you must wear pants, even though you are a woman. That job that requires that you must wear pants. That school that requires your daughter that she must wear pants. That high school that requires your son that he must shave his beard. That's a call that I got from a young boy, 16 years old. He didn't know what to do because the high school was requiring him that he must shave. He saw my video and he called me. He's like, what do I do? I know I have to have my beard, but my school is saying that I have to shave it. What in the world does a beard on a 16 years old, what does that beard has to do with his education? How can him having a beard be a problem? But they make them shave their beard. Even though Yah says in Leviticus chapter 19 verse 27 not to do it. Do you see what's going on here? So these things, if you read First Samuel chapter 15 verse 22 and 23, First Samuel chapter 15, First Samuel 15. First Samuel chapter 15 verse 22 and 23. You see that simply disobeying or not keeping the law that Yah gave us, that's an idol worship right there. That's witchcraft. And today we are not keeping either this law or that law because of this reason or that reason. In the sight of the Most High, that is still witchcraft. Verse 28, Yah says that in the places that he will scatter us, wherever you are, Jamaica, Belize, Trinidad, wherever you are, Europe, America, Africa, verse 28, Deuteronomy chapter 4:28. There you will serve other gods made by human hands, objects of wood and stone, that neither see, nor hear, nor smell. Verse 29, from there you will seek Yah, your Elohim, and you will find him if you search after him with all your heart and with all your soul. Verse 30, in your distress, when all these things have happened to you in time to come, you will return to Yah your Elohim and heed him and listen to him. Verse 31, because Yah your Elohim is merciful Elohim, he will neither abandon you nor destroy you. He will not forget the covenant with your ancestors that he swore to them. So this is the situation that we're living in right now. So our ancestors were breaking the law while they were in the land. They were kicked out, just like Yah said that they were kicked out. From being kicked out, like you saw in the book of Judges, they went and relaxed, thinking that they've gotten away from the Most High. They went into Africa and relaxed. And Yah sent the Europeans, and they came back down in the 1600s and took them as slaves and then scattered us in the four corners of the earth. So what's happening now is that you and I are now the descendants. And I hope that we are now waking up with all our heart and with all our soul, seeking his face. This is the only solution. That's why I came to, or that's why this scripture came up. Deuteronomy chapter 4. Do you see what they were told before they got into the land? Deuteronomy chapter 4 from verse 25 covers what will happen before they even got into the land, all the way till today. There's nowhere there that it says that you should fight for yourself. You should fight your enemy. You should cuss them out. You should be, yeah, it's okay to be angry. I don't like them. I hate them. Just like they hate the Most High. And I'm not going to be the first person to do it. David did it. And the way I see them helped me to stay away from them. I despise them. I don't like them. Because if you don't like someone, then we wouldn't deal with them. So that's a good thing. But at the same time, I'm not distracted on what the solution is. I know that the way to get them off my back is to have good relationship with my Heavenly Father. He'll make them to go away. He will make them to go away. That brings me back to what I had told you earlier, that we have to behave certain way. You can't just act like everyone else. You have to carry yourself in a certain way. I think I may have told you this before. There was one time I was stopped by a police. I stopped. I turned off my car. He came over. He says to me, "Thank you very much for your courtesy, for turning off the car." I was very respectful. When he wrote the ticket, as the whole thing was unfolding, that's when he told me that because of the way you behaved, because of the way you behaved, I'm going to tell the judge to make this ticket a non-point ticket. I'm going to tell the judge to make it so that you don't get any point in your driver's license because of the way your courtesy, because of the way you behaved. So he left. On that day, he never showed up. The case was dismissed. He never showed up. So the case was dismissed and no fine. Only the fee that they have, some small fee that they have, you have to pay. But that over $200, that was all dismissed. Nothing. Because he did not show up. Now that particular officer was known. He was a motorcycle officer. And if you know anything about getting tickets, and motorcycle officers, a lot of the time they show up in court to defend that ticket. And this guy was notorious for that. Now, I hated that. I don't like that man. I'm very familiar with that city. I did not like them. I despised them. But if they had came up, I had an attitude. Why did you stop me? Why did you stop me? If they had came up and I had an attitude, and I was being nasty, he will write the ticket, he will show up in court, and he will make sure that I pay it. So back to Egypt, when the Most High made the Egyptians to hate the Hebrew Israelite, fighting the Egyptians will not do you any good. You're going to get yourself killed. It doesn't solve any problem. The only solution is to go back and start keeping the law. Period. That's it. That is the only solution. But I'm not saying this for you to love your enemy. I'm not going to be the one that will tell you that. When the Bible, I think this is going to take us back to where we started, and then we'll close from there in Deuteronomy chapter 5. Going back to your neighbor and your enemy. So before I say what I just said now and then go back to where we started and close, if you look at that Judges chapter 6, it says that verse 6, Judges chapter 6 verse 6. Judges chapter 6 verse 6. Thus Israel was greatly impoverished because of Midian. And Israelite cried out to Yah for help. So when you look at the shootings in Chicago, for example, when you look at the way that we kill each other, I don't blame those kids 100%. There are blames that needs to be shared around. But at the end of the day, I blame us as a nation. Because before 1960, The so-called black family was intact. You didn't have people walking around with their pants hanging down. You didn't have a bunch of men running around talking that they're gay, saying that they're gay. You didn't have that. So the destruction of the so-called black family began in the late 1960s with the Welfare Act. Who were the ones that put it in place? The Europeans. Who were the ones that accepted it? The so-called black women. They were the ones that accepted it. Because the requirement is that you cannot have a man in the house. So you begin to see kind of like what happened in the Garden of Eden. That kind of happened. With Eve, Satan. So that's where you have the degeneration. The degeneration of the so-called black family began from late 1960s. And it's going to get worse. Because what you now see is now single family homes where only the woman is raising the children. And these boys are coming up becoming very effeminate. I remember when I was growing up, I fight with my friends. Sometimes we have problem, we fight. Like we fight physically. We like literally fight. And that made us to respect each other. Because you don't really want to fight. Sometimes you fight, but you fight because you have to fight. But we actually fight. We actually fought. It's even in the scripture. Yah says if two men are fighting, a woman shouldn't, try to disable the other man to help her husband. So these kids are now coming up, they're very emotional. It's a problem when a child, especially a boy, is raised by one parent. It's a problem when a woman raises a son. Problem. That boy will never be normal. It's a problem when a man raises a girl by himself. That's a problem. That is a problem. When a man raises a girl by himself, it's not balanced. Something is not right. Something is missing. You need the two. That's why you have the situation you have today. So you cannot blame those kids who are killing each other alone. At the same time, you cannot blame them and ignore the fact that the Europeans did this. They didn't have to do it. The Europeans did this. But are we supposed to be surprised? Well, you have Judges chapter 6. This is nothing new. But at the same time, we're not going to just keep pointing finger at the Europeans. We have to also now we can't ignore the fact that they did it. We have to acknowledge that they did it. We have to acknowledge that they are our enemies. But at the same time, we have to now go back and focus on why this happened. Why do we even have to be living with them? Why do they have to take us as slaves? Why do they take us as slaves? Why we have to accept the reality? So, verse 7, Judges chapter 6, verse 7. Judges chapter 6, verse 7. When the Israelites cried out to Yah on account of the Midianite, Yah sent a prophet to the Israelites, and he said to them, "Thou says Yah, the Elohim of Israel, I led you up from Egypt and brought you out of the house of slavery." Verse 9. I delivered you from the hand of the Egyptians and from the hand of all who oppressed you, and drove them out before you and gave you their land. Verse 10, Judges chapter 6, verse 10. And I said to you, I am Yahweh your Elohim. You shall not pay reverence to the gods of the Amorites, whose land you live in, but you have not give, but you have not given heed to my voice. That's it. That was the problem. That was the problem. That's why we get into the situation that we're in. So all this stuff, all this thing that we're trying to do to get out of this situation is complete waste of time. Complete waste of time. And if you continue to read, which I will encourage you to continue to read the book of Judges, but go back and start from the beginning. Go back and start from the beginning, because it's actually very interesting in chapter 2. Judges chapter 2. So start from chapter 1 and continue to read, so that you can get to learn more the kind of things that our ancestors did in the past. Because it's so easy to look around right now and think that, wow, the Most High is so, the punishment is too much. No, we actually deserve worse than this. So start from Judges chapter 2, start from chapter 1 and begin to read. And then see how Yah raises up people to deliver Israel. He delivers us, everything is fine, and then we go back to our lawless lifestyle. And then our enemies come and begin to oppress us. And then we cry out to him. And then he delivers us. And then we go back to our lawless lifestyle. And then he sends our enemy. This is what you keep seeing in the book of Judges. So today, this is the same situation that we're living in today. That's why I had to come here to show you the same problem that my tribe is having with our enemies, the Fulanese, people from Chad and Niger, in other parts of Africa. They are coming into our land and they're literally walking around with their cattle, and their cattle are destroying our crops. That's nothing new. So when I tell my people that Yah is doing this to us, they're like, this man is crazy. So, back to Deuteronomy chapter, or before we go there and close, because I want to go there and then we'll close from there. Another thing is about getting away from your enemy. Or let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 5. Deuteronomy chapter 5. Deuteronomy chapter 5, verse 20. Neither shall you bear false witness against your neighbor. Neither shall you bear false witness against your neighbor. So you have to understand that there's a difference between your neighbor and your enemy. And most of our people today don't even know that we have enemy. Most of them don't. Whenever I tell our people that the Europeans are our enemy, they think I'm crazy. I'm sure they think I'm crazy. Are you crazy? You're kind of some kind of racist or something? They don't know that we have enemy. We read in the book of Psalm today, the book of Psalm, we read that Yah said that he will basically destroy the enemies of David. We have enemies. Yah said that he will send our enemies in Deuteronomy chapter 28 from verse 48. Deuteronomy chapter 28 from verse 48. He calls them our enemies. But majority of our people today don't know that we have enemy. They don't even know. How can you fight your enemy but when you don't even know you have an enemy? So these other nations, especially the Gentiles, especially the Europeans, these are our enemies. Your friend will not take you as slave. Your friend will not be doing the things that they're doing today. You don't see the Japanese doing that to us. You don't see the Koreans doing that to us. They don't give a damn about us. We don't care about them. They don't care about us. That's it. Who is it that is going out of their way to oppress us? Who is it that is going out of their way to pass laws to put as many of us as possible in prison? So among the Gentiles, you do have an enemy amongst all the Gentiles. And your God calls them your enemy. We refuse to acknowledge it. We don't want to accept it because it makes us uncomfortable. And most people don't want to say it. So when I say it, I am the bad guy. When it's clearly that they're treating you like your enemy. So no, Europeans are not our neighbors. I don't care if they live in the same bed with you, sleeping with you in the same bed. Europeans are not your neighbors. Mexicans are not your neighbors. Your neighbor is your fellow Hebrew Israelite. Your God says, love your neighbor. But sometimes he also tells you to take some knife, take some sword, and go kill some other nation. How can he tell you to love your neighbor? But then he turns around and says, go wipe them out. Love your neighbor, but tomorrow go kill them. Really? No, they are not our neighbors. Your neighbor is your fellow Hebrew Israelite. And you're not obligated to love those strangers' enemy. You're not obligated to love them. The only time you should have any kind of, you should look at them is if they become interested in keeping the law. Other than that, don't take them seriously. Even when they begin to keep the law, you still have to be careful. You still have to be careful. Because they are who they are, you are who you are. So our enemy is someone of our own family. I'm sorry, our neighbor is a fellow Hebrew Israelite. That's your neighbor. Now, do not bear false witness, neither shall you bear false witness against your neighbor. We have a law that says that if people commit adultery, they are to be put to death. The thing is that you need 2 or 3 witnesses. So you can't just stone somebody to death because you think they were committing adultery. You can't put a man and woman to death because you see them coming out of a hotel or motel. You have to have 2 or 3 witnesses before you can put somebody to death. So if someone really, really, really hates someone, they can try to arrange for a witness to say, hey, we saw him. We saw that person. We saw, this is found in the book of Susanna in the Apocrypha. If you have the book of the Apocrypha, there were 2 wicked, deadly wicked Hebrew elders. They wanted to have sex with her. She was a beautiful woman. This was happening in Babylon. So they were lusting after her. Her husband was kind of like wealthy a little bit, and they were living in a foreign land in Babylon. And the Israelite will go to his house for meeting, to go have a meeting. So, and these 2 men, they will be checking out his wife, which is a step towards adultery. They keep checking her out. They keep having interest in her. And at some point, they decided to approach her and ask for sex, to which she refused. And they threatened her, if you don't let us have sex with you, we would we would tell people that we saw you with a young boy who was having sex with you, because there was two of them. These are too old. I didn't see them. I've never seen them. But having that kind of a wicked attitude towards a Hebrew sister, that tells me that they are probably disgusting old men too. So these two men tried to have sex with her. And she refused. Why did she refuse? Read the book of Susanna. That's part of the Apocrypha. If you don't have it, Google it. The book of Susanna. Just type it into Google. The book of Susanna. It's not long. It's like one chapter. It's not long at all. Very simple story, but a wonderful story. Why did she do this? Why did she say no? So they wanted to have sex with her. Okay, I'm not gonna tell you the whole story, so that you can enjoy it when you read it. I don't want to spoil it for you. They want to have sex with her, and she said no. Even though she knew that she's going to die, because there was two of them, and they will say that if you don't give us sex, we will lie and claim that we saw you with a young boy. And you know what's going to happen. So even though she knew she would die, she still said no. Now read that story very carefully and find out why she did this. Because of the family, how she was raised. Because of how she was raised. And if it means that she will have to give her life, she was ready to do it. Rather instead of going against the Most High. It's a very interesting story, the book of Susanna and the Apocrypha. If you don't have the Apocrypha, just Google it and read the book of Susanna. It's a very short story, short book that happened in Babylon. So that would be a good example of when it says, neither shall you bear false witness against your neighbor. That's a very good example, because those two wicked Hebrew Israelites, they are Hebrew Israelites. Susanna is a Hebrew Israelite. So they were bearing false witness against their neighbor just because she refused to have sex with them. So when you read the story, you see how they ended up, what happened to them. I'm not going to tell you that, so that you can look forward to that. I don't want to tell you everything that happened in the story and spoil it for you. Read the book of Susanna and see what happened to those two men at the end. Because they were bearing false witness against their neighbor. Susanna was their neighbor. They were Hebrew Israelites. The Babylonians was not their neighbor. The Assyrians was not their neighbor. Just like today, the Chinese are not your neighbor. The Europeans are not your neighbor. Mexicans are not your neighbor. Although we have this perverted, wicked doctrine that are being preached by many Hebrew Israelites, that Mexicans are Hebrew Israelites. What? The Afro-Mexicans, the Afro-Latinos are Hebrew Israelites, not regular Mexicans. They are not Hebrew Israelites. They are Gentiles. This is a wicked doctrine that is now causing, because of this wicked doctrine, you have filthy situation going on, disgusting situation going on in the sight of the Most High. Because when a Gentile gets and lays with a Hebrew woman, that's defilement. Go read Jubilees chapter 30 and see what happened. A non-Hebrew Israelite is not supposed to touch a Hebrew woman sexually. That's a filthy thing in the sight of the Most High. But that's what's going on today. You now see Mexicans marrying Hebrew Israelites. You see Hebrew Israelites marrying Mexicans and polluting themselves. Read Jubilees chapter 30. So Mexicans are not Hebrew Israelites. The Afro, The so-called black Mexicans are Hebrew Israelites. And they are there because of Deuteronomy chapter 28. And they are second-class citizens in Mexico. It was only in 2014, just in 2014. These are people who speak Spanish. The only thing is that they look black. That's it. But it was only in 2014 that the Mexican government recognized them as being citizens. They were like second-class citizens in Mexico. This is what you see around the world. You go to Iraq, the same thing. The Afro-Iraqis. Go on your phone tomorrow. When you have time, type into Google, black Iraqis. Those are Hebrew Israelites. Black Mexicans. Those are Hebrew Israelites. Black Cubans or Afro-Cubans. You can type in Afro-Cubans, Afro-Latinos, Afro-Iraqis. Our people has been scattered in the four corners of the earth. Everywhere we are at the bottom. We're complaining of racism. We're complaining of oppression. So Mexicans are not Hebrew Israelites. And a very good example is the one that I gave with the book of Susan. When those two men tried to commit an abomination with this woman, she said no. They decided to bear false witness by claiming that two of them saw her with a young boy, which their two witnesses, that's enough to put her to death. And that was what she was facing before Yah delivered her from their wicked plot. So that's why Yah said, don't be a false witness. And that law was given before they went into captivity in Babylon. And yet those two wicked men still ignored that law. So we don't bear false witness against our brothers, our sisters, saying that we saw them doing something when they didn't do it. That's false witness. We don't do that. But the main point of this is that this is not just, the Most High wants you to care about your own people first. The Most High cares about his own people first, before he cares about other nations. Yet, he created everybody. But he cares about his own people first, before he cares about other nations. When you come into the 12th tribe of Israel, Yah wants us to care about our tribe first, before I care about your tribe. I give you example with the book of Numbers. Those Hebrew sisters, those sisters that come from a family where there was no boy. Their father did not have a son. And their father's brothers tried to keep his properties. They refused to give his property to his daughters because he didn't have a son. And they went to Moshe. This is found in the book of Numbers. They went to Moshe, and Moshe was like, Moshe didn't really know what to do. So Moshe consulted Yah. And Yah said they were right. They can keep their father's property on one condition. On one condition, that they do not marry outside of their tribe. Because if they marry outside of the tribe, then that inheritance that went to their father, that they're keeping, will now go to another tribe. Do you see the tribalism? Do you see, if you want to call it racism or tribalism, that's what it is. So even when you come into our culture, when you come into the 12th tribe of Israel, Yah wants us to stay within our tribes. That's the reason. What's the point of having 12 tribes in the first place? Why not just have a bunch of people? Why do you have to make it 12? That's Yah's will. And we want to keep it that way. When you come into the tribes, you have the families. Yah wants you to see your family first. Your tribe, then your nation. So these are things that if you look at that, Yah was very clear. You guys can keep the property. Normally that has not happened before, but you can keep it on one condition. If you choose to marry or let a man from another tribe marry you, you forfeit the property. Because Yah does not want an inheritance from one tribe to go to another tribe. He doesn't want that. And the question should be, most simple people will say, what's the point? It's still Israelite, right? It's still the same people. Like, this is not a big deal. That's how you and I are probably going to think about this. You and I will probably look at it like that. Tribe of Gad, the Levite, the tribe of Benjamin. What's the point? It's the same thing. But to Yah, it's not like that. It's not like that. To Yah. To Yah, it's different. To Yah, he wants every tribe to stay, people to stay within their tribes. And that's why he told those girls, that's why he told them, okay, if you want to keep your father's property, that's fine. But on one condition. One condition. You can only keep it on one condition. So you can go read the book of Numbers for those that are interested in that story. Numbers chapter 27 and Numbers 27. That's where you read about those girls, those sisters that was interested in that situation. So Numbers chapter 27 and Numbers chapter 36. Read the whole chapter. Numbers 27 and Numbers chapter 36. That's where you read it and you see where this happened. So that shows you that Yah is tribalistic. So that's the same way he created us to be different colors, different races. He wants it to stay that way. When a so-called black man goes and has sex with a white woman, so-called white woman, that's against the will of Yah. That's not his will. If Yah wanted us to look the same way, he would have made us to look the same way. He wants every race to stay within their race, everybody to stay within their people. An African man cannot have sex with a Mexican. A Mexican cannot have sex with Chinese. Japanese cannot have sex with Indian. Arabs cannot have sex with Russians. Yah wants everybody to stay within their people. This is his will. And all these people who are going against his will burn in hellfire because they are going against the will of the Most High. So Yah is very tribalistic. He wants us to stay in our tribe. You can take a look at Numbers chapter 27 and Numbers chapter 36. Read the whole chapters and you see there see this in action. So when he says not to go be a false witness against your neighbor, when you see something, you say what you say. You say what you see. You don't accuse someone of what they didn't do. You don't accuse them of what they did not do. You don't come out and say, yes, I saw them do it. I saw him do it. I saw her do it. You don't do that if you did not see them. But then if you did saw them do it, then you have to come out and say, I saw them. You cannot keep quiet. You have to speak out. But if you didn't see it, then you don't come out and say that you see. So that's what it means. Don't be a false witness. Don't say I saw that person stealing something when they didn't steal it. I saw this person doing this when they didn't do it. We don't do that. That's exactly what this law is saying. Do not bear false witness against your neighbor. Period. Your neighbor is your brother or your sister of your nation, an Israelite. That's simply what it's saying. Period. That's what Deuteronomy chapter 5 verse 20 is saying. Don't bear false witness against your neighbor. Deuteronomy chapter 5 verse 20. Neither shall you bear false witness against your neighbor. So next time we're going to look at the next verse. Neither shall you covet your neighbor's wife. This is going to be different too. This is gonna not this will not be what you think. Don't covet your neighbor's wife. This has been completely misunderstood because of Christianity. Do not covet your neighbor's wife. What does that mean? Don't covet your neighbor's wife. And you may even be surprised as to how this works out today. Because most people who are living together today, they're not even married. So if you are living with a woman who is not your wife, biblically, and a man wants her, is that man coveting your wife? She's not even your wife in the first place. Most people today, most Hebrews are living with women who are not their wives. So how does that work if we have to apply this law when they're not even married in the first place? We will find out. We are going to find out, Yah's willing. So next time, it could be tomorrow, it could be the day after tomorrow. Yah's willing, we're going to meet tomorrow. It could be. I don't know. We'll find out. It depends on what the Spirit leads us to go through, what Yah wants us to know. So I thank our Heavenly Father for everything, for His love and His kindness, for opening our eyes to understand these things. And before we move on, if there's any question, if we came across anything and you have any question in any of the things that we went through, if you have any question, you are more than welcome to let me know that you have any question. You're more than welcome to contact me if you have any question. You're way more than welcome. You're more than welcome to contact me. Sometimes I'm sure that Gentiles will listen to this and they're scratching their head and they're thinking, does that mean that Gentiles don't have a chance? Let me tell you a quick story before we close. Something that happened to me, which I already told you. I was in a store. A Hebrew Israelite sister saw my fringes. And she said, "Hey, is that you're wearing a fringes? You're a Hebrew Israelite?" I said, "Yes." She said, "Oh, my roommate, I would love for you to meet my roommate. He's a Hebrew Israelite too. And he spends a lot of time." She said that her roommate spends a lot of time in the scriptures every day, reading the scriptures. And that he's kind of like isolated. He doesn't really have friends. She said that he doesn't really have a life. That's what she said. That he does not really have a life. And that she would like to introduce us. So I gave her my card. About maybe 20 minutes after, 20 to 30 minutes, my phone rang. He called me. The guy called me. And he calls my name. "Is that me?" I said, "Yes." He told me, "Oh, I got your information." I was like, "Okay." And actually, this is what I gave her, and this is what she went home and gave to him, which is my card. So this is what he was holding. So he called me about 20 to 30 minutes after she went home. And he began to ask me a question about this. This is something behind the card. So the first question he asked me was, and I'm telling you this story for a reason. This has to do with the Gentiles. Are they going to be saved or not? So for those who are Gentiles, who are scratching their head thinking, do you have any chance? Listen to this. So he asked me, the first question was, what tribe are you from? That's what he asked me. This person that I've never met before, his roommate wanted us to talk. So he asked me, "What tribe are you from?" I said that, well, nobody really knows. We know that we are Hebrew Israelite. When it comes to the tribe, nobody really knows. People are claiming that they're from the tribe of Judah, they're from the tribe of this. The truth is that nobody knows. But we will find out when Yeshua HaMashiach returns. According to Malachi, he's going to refine the Hebrew Israelite. He will refine the Hebrew Israelite, and we will be able to find out who is who. He will refine the Levite, not the Hebrew Israelite. He will refine the Levite. So right now, we don't really know which tribe we're from. He said, okay. He was like, okay. So he goes to this question, to this. He asked me that in my card, that I have something. Why am I saying this? Does this mean that the Gentiles are going to be saved? And just to give you an idea what the card says. It says here, like as you can see, warning. It says warning. It says warning. God will soon kill you. God warning. God will soon kill you for refusing to keep his laws. Our Creator said that he will soon destroy most people in this world through nuclear fire for refusing to keep God's laws. God's punishment to those that refuse to keep God's laws will soon begin as a nuclear World War III. To fulfill what God said in Isaiah chapter 24, verse 1 to 6, Malachi chapter 4, verse 1 to 6. You must start keeping all of God's commandments now to avoid his coming anger and punishment and destruction of all who refuse to keep God's laws. Isaiah 24, verse 1 to 4, Malachi chapter 4, verse 1 to 4. Then it continues, God's kingdom and God's judgment. God's kingdom and God's judgment day is coming, when he will judge you and I based on how well we kept God's laws. Christ said that those who will be saved and be allowed into the coming kingdom of God are those who kept God's laws. Anyone who refused to keep God's laws will be destroyed. Revelation chapter 3:10, Revelation chapter 20:11 to 15, Romans chapter 2:13, 1 John chapter 2 verse 3 to 6, Matthew chapter 5 verse 17 to 19, Matthew chapter 23 verse 1 to 3, Ecclesiastes 12:13, Revelation 22:14 to 15. These are the scriptures that backed up what was said. What was said right here, these are the scriptures that back that up. Then it continues, you must immediately begin to keep God's laws now. You can find God's laws and commandment. You can find the laws and the commandment of your Creator in the book of Leviticus, Deuteronomy, Exodus, and Numbers. So that's what this says, and this is what he did not agree with this. So he asked me, does this mean that if a Gentile, his question, which is the reason why I'm telling you this story. So his question was, so you're saying that if a Gentile start keeping the law, they will be saved? I said, yes. And he was like, I said something like, I think I said, yeah, but of course, I keep telling him, trying to explain to him that, yeah, if a Gentile start keeping the law, they will be saved. So he totally disagrees. He disagrees with that. I said, okay, go to Isaiah chapter 56. So he went to Isaiah 56 and he read a couple of verses and he stopped reading. He refused to read it. I was like, why don't you finish it? He kept trying to talk, and I was like, just finish the whole thing. Just read it, so that you can see the scripture that shows that a Gentile will be allowed into the kingdom if they keep the law. Isaiah chapter 56. He refused to read it. It took almost 5 minutes. He just refused to read it. refuse to read Isaiah chapter 56. So when you read Isaiah 56, let's see what it says. Isaiah 56. Let's see what Yah says. Isaiah 56 from verse 1. Isaiah 56 from verse 1. Thou says Yah, maintain justice and do what is right, for soon my salvation will come and my deliverance be revealed. Verse 2, Isaiah 56 verse 2. Happy are the mortals who does this, the one who holds it fast, who keeps the Sabbath, not profaning it, and refrain from doing any evil. Verse 3, Isaiah 56 verse 3. Do not let the foreigner join to Yah, say, Yah will surely separate me from his people. And do not let the eunuch say, I am just a dry tree. Verse 4, for thou says Yah Elohim, or thou says Yahweh, to the eunuch who keep my Sabbaths, who choose the things that please me, and hold first my covenant. I will give in my house and within my walls a monument and a name better than sons and daughters. I will give them an everlasting name that shall not be cut off. Verse 6, and the foreigners who join themselves to Yah, to minister to him, to love the name of Yah, and to be his servant, all who keep the Sabbath and do not profane it, and hold fast my covenant. Verse 7, these I will bring to my holy mountain, and make them joyful in my house of prayer. Their burnt offerings and sacrifices will be acceptable on my altar, for my house shall be called a house of prayer for all people. Verse 8, thou says Yah Elohim, who gathers the outcast of Israel. I will gather others to them beside those who are already gathered. So according to Isaiah chapter 56, you can clearly see that Yah is saying that if the foreigners, the non-Israelite, if they keep the Sabbath and choose what pleases Yah, do you hear that? If they keep his Sabbath, not just one Sabbath, his Sabbaths, that includes the Passover, Day of Atonement, Feast of Unleavened Bread. If a foreigner, like a Chinese, a Japanese, a Mexican, if they keep all of Yah's Sabbaths and then choose what pleases Yah, what is it that pleases Yah? That we dress moderately. What is it that pleases Yah? That we put on our fringes, grow our beard, stop lying, stop cheating, stop killing. These are the things that pleases Yah. So if anybody keeps the Sabbath, if a foreigner, a non-Hebrew Israelite keeps the Sabbath and then choose the things that pleases Yah, where do you find the things that pleases the Most High? The book of Leviticus, the book of Deuteronomy, the book of Exodus, the book of Numbers. That's where you find the things that pleases him. So if a foreigner, a non-Hebrew Israelite, if they keep the Sabbath and they begin to keep all the laws, they will be acceptable. That's what Yah says. Well, that brother says, no, that's not true. So he told me that foreigner or the strangers, that's not really talking about other nations. That foreigner there or that stranger is talking about Israelite. So even though Yah was very specific at verse 8, that just like he gathers the Hebrew Israelite, the outcast of Israelite, right now we're outcast. Right now we are outcast in the four corners of the earth. We've been scattered. We've been cast out. The outcasts. That's what we are. He has said that he will gather the outcast of Israel, but he will also gather others. He said no. Even though the Yah was very specific, this brother still refused to accept that Gentiles will be in the kingdom. So he goes on to say that I'm preaching that by me saying that's not true, that's a false teaching. I said, okay, I can't really force him to accept Isaiah chapter 56. So the reason why I'm saying this is for anyone who is a Gentile, who, if you start keeping the laws, which you have to, like Cornelius in Acts chapter 10, you have to start keeping the laws and the commandments. That is the only chance of making it into the kingdom. Now, sometimes we have people that pretend. We had a brother, someone, I'm not going to call him a brother, because he's not my brother. He's a Gentile, and he used to join us. And he was not serious. I don't know if it was some kind of a joke or something. Some of you that are here will know who I'm talking about. But he doesn't join us anymore. For a reason. Because he can't join us. He can't be here. So when I asked him some questions, I could tell that he was lying. I could tell that he was lying on those questions. There was stuff like he lives with his girlfriend, but he told me that they don't have sex. He told me that they lay in the same bed, but they don't have sex. But this girlfriend don't keep the law, and they just don't have sex. I was like, okay. But that's not even the issue. There was something else that he told me that I could tell that he was lying. There was something else that he told me. So it was a battle trying to get him to put on his fringes. So he wants to join us. He wants to join the congregation of Yah. But he's not serious with the law. So again, I have to warn you, just like you have to watch out for Hebrew Israelites that claims to keep the law, but they're not really keeping the law, and before you realize it, they have either scammed you, they have either scammed you out of money, or they have stolen from you, or maybe they got you pregnant, or they get you to commit sexual sin. Typically, by the time you realize it, it's too late. By the time you realize it will be too late. That is the reason why you have to not trust anybody. Be skeptical, especially when someone is claiming to keep the law. Don't just trust people just because they say they are keeping the law. Be skeptical. You will be much, much better protected that way than just being vulnerable and just like, oh, you see somebody who is wearing fringes and they have a long beard and you welcome them into your home. Be skeptical. Take it easy. Be slow. It doesn't mean that you should be, like I gave you an example of my behavior and attitude towards the heathen. And I don't like him. He's my enemy. But I explained to you how I behaved. I don't have to be belligerent and be, no, you have to use wisdom. Because me acting like that is not going to change anything. It will not change anything. Actually, it will make the situation worse. And I would like to say, I will like to say that I learned this from Abraham. Because if you look at Abraham, the way he treated people, he was a humble man. He will bow to people. He bowed down. He was a very humble man. It doesn't mean that he was stupid. It doesn't mean that he was weak. And sometimes people don't understand it. And just because I'm being kind to you doesn't mean I'm stupid or I'm a fool. Just because I'm being nice, I'm being kind, I'm being humbling myself to you doesn't mean that I'm weak Unfortunately, because people are no longer keeping the law, unfortunately, when they see a man who is acting very quiet and a man who is humbling himself, most people will take it for granted and begin to abuse it. And that's the reason why sometimes people don't want to act like that, because they don't want to be people to take them for granted. So, again, at the end of the day, this is all about the law. Whether you are a Gentile or you're a Hebrew, the only reason why a Gentile is going to make it into the kingdom is by keeping the law. The only reason why a Hebrew is going to make it into the kingdom is by keeping the law. So we have to be very careful as we do this, as we go in this journey, because we're definitely in Satan's radar screen. We are being watched by Satan. We are being monitored by Satan because of Revelation chapter 12. Satan is, he will like to bring us down. How will he bring us down? By making us to break the law. So he may send up some young girl towards your way if you're a young man. And in the name of keeping the law, before you know it, you start committing sexual sin. He may send up a young man in your way if you are a young woman, or if you're a woman, he will send up a brother your way. In the name of studying the law, in the name of keeping the Sabbath, before you know it, you start having sex with them. We have to be very careful. We have to be very careful. Don't trust anybody. Be very skeptical, including myself. Don't trust me. Be very skeptical of anybody. That's okay. It's not sin. You're just being watchful, like you're told to be. In the book of Luke, chapter 21, Yeshua said basically to be watchful and be on guard. Basically, you cannot let your guards down, because Satan, like as I said, Satan will not send. He will send someone you can trust to use them to begin to tell you, are we really supposed to wear fringes? Should we really wear fringes? Are we really supposed to use the moon to keep the Sabbath? It happens. We've had it here. So you have to be very, very careful. I thank our Heavenly Father for everything. Like as I said before, at the end of the day, it's all about the law. And you saw it yourself. At the end of the day, it's all about keeping the law. It's all about the law. It's all about observing the law. We have to keep these laws and the commandments. We have to keep them. That's the only key and the only solution for everything. For everything. Good health. Everything. Keeping the law is the key for everything. And most importantly, keeping the law is the key into the kingdom. So just in case, for those who are not already keeping it, do whatever you can to keep the Sabbath. Find out when the next Sabbath day is going to be. Observe the Sabbath. Start keeping the Sabbath. Get your fringes on. Start dressing moderately. Grow your beard if you're a man. Start keeping these laws. It's not difficult. Read the scriptures 3 times a day. I'm sorry, once a day and once at night. Pray three times a day, like you see in the scriptures, in the Bible, in Daniel chapter 6, 2nd Chronicles chapter 6, Matthew chapter 6. So Matthew chapter 6, Daniel chapter 6, 2nd Chronicles chapter 6. These all 666 talks about prayer. Read them. And keep the law. And as always, you're more than welcome to contact me if you have any question. But the very first contact you need to make is your scripture. Go to the book of Leviticus, book of Numbers, book of Exodus, Deuteronomy. That's where the answers are. So I thank our Heavenly Father for everything. And if we don't do all of this, his wrath is coming. Just like he says in this thing here. His anger is coming. His wrath is coming. It's right there in Isaiah chapter 24. Isaiah chapter 24, verse 1 to 6. It's right there. His anger is coming. His wrath is coming on those that refuse to keep the law. He's going to be destroying those that refuse to keep the law. He will be destroying them. It will happen as a nuclear destruction. The only people that he's going to spare and save are those who are keeping the law. That's why it's very important to start doing this. And as always, for those that do have any question, you're more than welcome to contact me. If you do have any question, but start keeping it now.